Mike, do you know what the price is per abortion to taxpayers?
I don't, but I don't know what taxation at the baby is.
It's 16,000. It costs $16,000 per baby to abort. That's $1 billion divided by 60,000.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually paying for abortions.
I'd like to come back to something Sam Quinn said about having able to legislate in this area.
The league had good lobbyists.
But I think it, like, legislate in this area, and there are examples of good legislation in this area all over the world where abortion is not a political football.
Oh.
And in countries all over the world, you see something like the trimester framework, where abortion is more or less readily available in the first 3 months. It becomes more restricted in the next 3 months. And then in the final 3 months, we say, okay, is there a threat to the mother's health? Or is this a pregnancy that is not going to come to term? And this is a pretty reasonable framework to work from. And what I think we end up with in America is too often, there's a strong tendency in America to want all or nothing frameworks for stuff, you know? So like people will tell you, it's an unrelated issue, I won't go into it, I only offer this example because of how illuminating it is. People will tell you, guns are banned everywhere except in America. Or semi-automatic rifles are banned everywhere except in America. And then you go to Austria, or Germany, or Switzerland, or France. Are semi-auto rifles banned? No, they are not actually banned. What they have is this like tiered framework, A, B, C, D of guns, and you need these different like tiers to get into them. They don't ban them outright. But in America, the only two policies we discuss in this area are like, well, let's ban them, or you can have them. You know, you can buy them at Walmart, right? And there's no like intermediate concept. And with abortion, we do the same thing. You know, with drugs, we often do the same thing. We're like, well, you can just have drugs, or they're illegal and you got to go to jail for them, you know? And there's no, also, like, I think with cannabis clubs and so on, we actually are evolving that intermediate concept there. But for a long time, the debate is just like drugs, yes or no. And the way we're treating abortion is we're just like abortion, yes or no. And you're not going to get good laws either way, that way. You know, I think we have to embrace these more complex legal regimes, somewhat more complex, somewhat more nuanced, you know. With guns too, Jay?
I just wanted to.
I don't want to change the topic.
Oh, no,
Fair enough.
I just want to mention, like, if anybody's on my side and they want to see, like, abortion completely, outlawed in the sense of the Supreme Court ruling on it, you don't even have to have a federal ban. You just have to have the Supreme Court deem status baby inside the womb. If you believe in that, you should look into the birthright citizenship argument that the ACLU is pushing for on the basis that people who are in the womb are considered U.S. citizens, and that they should have rights, and they should have the rights even if they're not born yet. So even if they're still in the mother's womb, and some lady comes over from China, the second she hits the United States, if the baby's in her tummy, then that's considered a U.S. citizen even before it's born. That's what they're trying to push for, and a lot of the liberal, scholars on jurisprudence and stuff are arguing that, hey, it's a fucking dumb idea, because it could open the door for the Supreme Court ruling that a baby who's in the womb is a legal U.S. citizen, and they do have birthright citizenship in that sense, which would then criminalize them having abortions, which I think is fucking amazing. I used to support the ACLU, then they went all woke, but they've done something fucking amazing. So if you guys want to support the ACLU, you should definitely go on and donate some money.
Well, the
Thank you.
thing is that people get pissy when I say this in a room, but Trump only has one more hurdle, and that's the Senate, and that automatic birthright citizenship is out of here. You will be introducing yourself as the person who didn't finalize your citizenship status. I even had a girl ping me into a room to tell me to get the fuck out of here, you old ass. I don't even know if she said, bitch or not. You know, and I was like, gee, I kind of want to live to be 200 years old. I don't want to die young. I still got a lot of things I want to do. Right, right. And so she's really butthurt about what's going on. But, yeah, that, those who did not finalize their status when their parents got the green cards, they're going to have a problem, and they should, you know, talk with a lobbyist and a lawyer, because you can't, America cannot hold everybody. 26 million came in throughout the Biden administration, and they bought nothing but the Western Union, everything back out. You know, you can end with no resources, but that means you had to take from somebody, and we all know that Black people get the back burner of everything when it comes to domestic issues, especially if there's something hot on the table, like nuclear proliferation, you know, keep people from using nuclear, keep people from going rogue into communism or fascism or something like that. And so, though that ideal of continuing to let your girlfriend's child be an automatic citizen is over with, it will be finalized and even a harsher enforcement once the Senate votes on it. And it's headed to the Senate any day now. Well, it's there. They're just like sneezing over it. Yeah. So that's the thing. I always said if something goes wrong, I would run back to the reservation or something. But it is what it is, because they only have a small staff, and it's like they're inundated with a lot of paperwork. And I don't believe a lot of people are illegal immigrants. I think that the people have dropped the ball and did not process the paperwork fairly or accurately. That's what I think.
Rich, I have a question. Are you gonna answer me?
For who?
For Rich,
Who's Rich? Messi?
Messi.
I did you have a question on too?
He's mad at me.
Messi, my question is, it's real basic, I think, but I just don't understand. Why would the ACLU push an agenda that categorizes fetuses in a womb as American citizens, when ultimately that seems counterproductive to allowing continuation of abortions? Like, on one side you're saying abortion should be okay, and you're not necessarily killing a baby, you're just making a decision that's the right of a woman. And the other side you're saying this thing's an American citizen before it's born, which means it's a baby that would likely have rights at that point based on that decision to make it a citizen. And it seems like that would lend to more pro-life focus. Does that make sense? Like, it seems the two things are opposite, or that they're trying to make something happen that would cause a lot of problems with their other stance of pro-choice. Am I missing something? Does that make sense? Like, how would you expect the ACLU to argue they're not babies and they're not citizens until they're born, and that way they continue pushing for abortions?
But then that makes arguing for birthright citizenship hard, right? Which is what Messi is saying, is that the reason the ACLU is advancing this argument is to support birthright citizenship.
Well, that doesn't change much if the birthright citizenship remains when the birth takes place. No? Like, why would they?
But this
Why
is
would
just
they
one.
need to extend birthright
They
citizenship?
maybe don't have to, but this is what he's saying is one of their techniques that they're employing. Okay, so they're not employing it on the abortion issue. They're employing it in this other area.
Right.
And
it has implications on abortion.
So that's why. But the lawyers work one case at a time. And the lawyers working on this case are like, maybe this ideal will work, you know? And then maybe someone else will come in and say, no, you can't do that because of this implication. But it's not like it's just one big, it's a bunch of different lawyers, right? And they are all doing different shit. So I think what he's saying makes sense. I don't think it has the actual implications he's talking about. But serendipity, I really was hoping to hear your like pushback basically on like, because I'm saying we can legislate. There are proven legal regimes for this. There are proven strategies. And what would be so bad about adopting one of those?
Well, again, like I said, I just feel like there's gonna be circumstances and situations that are gonna, when you draw very hard, rigid lines, you're always gonna have something that's gonna test the boundaries of the hard, rigid lines. Even if you do the trimester, first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, there's always gonna be a situation that's gonna come up, that's gonna be outside of the confines of those very specified outlines within the trimester, which is why I think essentially, take the law out of it. Let them be medical decisions, because honestly, in every situation, the doctor and the patient, medical team, however you want to frame it, are the ones that are in the best position to hopefully make the right choice for all the parties involved, I don't know. Like I said, it's just something I've been bantering around in my head because I agree. I do take the position that I personally believe that life begins at conception. But I really struggle with the fact that I have empathy for the women that either are victims of violence or the women who probably desperately want those babies, but, carrying that baby to term is a huge jeopardy to herself. And what if she's got other children she has to take care of and a husband? Like, I don't know. I have so much empathy for those situations that if you're going to take a pro-life stance, the only way to really do it is to be all in, like Mojo said. Otherwise, your whole philosophy falls apart. But I can't ignore the fact that those are very real problems. They're very real circumstances, and I just can't wash away not having empathy for them. That's probably just the woman in me.
Can I just say to Christy Magoo, you missed a hell of a room earlier. I think the first room of rational discussion group was a killer. And if you think about how many people attended for the first room compared to a room that's been going for 3 years, I would imagine that by mid-next week, we're going to be doing much bigger numbers than the other one. So, Christy, you might want to get in before it's too late. Also, do you guys remember the room we did the other day with the title, What's Worse, the Vaccine or the Disease? You guys remember that? Anybody? John? Serenity? Nobody remembers. Nobody's at the...
The title the other day?
Yeah, do you remember that?
I don't know, but I saw it today.
Yeah, so we
The
did that.
exact same title.
We did that exact same title, and Jonathan Bing, stole word for word the title.
Yes.
I can't complain considering I stole Gary Baumgartner's title word for word, but I can say that Jonathan Bing is hitting a new low. Christy, how was Gary's room? I'm guessing it was boring. Our room was action-packed.
I don't think Christy's here anymore. She's here? Oh no, she's down below, sorry.
Yeah, Christy's here. Christy said it was informative. That is what that room is never. Gary's room is a bunch of fucking NPR listening, boring fucking people that just get up there and They don't build on any points. They just get up there and they just say words. It's just fucking word salad. It used to be good though, but now it's Monsef. Hey, let's hear from Monsef. It's fucking Christ.
Gary Baumgarten.
Yeah, Baumgarten.
The problem with his rooms, I think, is that it's exact same people every single day on stage. Scott, the Navy,
And what about, debate the news? They do bring up
Debate,
social
no,
studies articles.
hold on. Debate the News is ran by the biggest no talent on this app, Jonathan Bing. Jonathan Bing is a big no talent hack that rides on the coattails of Nelson Ortega. Jonathan Bing has never had an intelligent thought. He's never had an original thought. He is a big dum-dum.
Is that your gist about him too, Connie? Is that what you feel about that room?
Well, when I go in there, they don't like let anybody talk. And they'll read off something that happened, and they want to know what you think, but then they do move along very quickly, and they don't want to know what you think. It's the worst censorship I've ever seen in my 16 years of living. So that I don't go in there because I'm like, I subscribe to all the news articles, Apple News. I got to read my own news. So that's what I don't like about it. I don't like about it at all. And then the people there, they don't like communicate with each other because, you could back into each other or type in the chat what you think. So I don't know why it's a type that goes in there. But for Clubhouse, most people are there for the entertainment, not to learn a new perspective, way of thinking, or something that they totally agree on the facts.
Yeah, I think that Gary's room, to your point, Connie, Gary's room, like, he leaves the chat turned off, which is really frustrating because he lets people talk as long as they want, and they have to go in order, and there's absolutely no checking in. Like, if somebody says something, and you're just like, yeah, I agree, like, he would, like, freak out on you, just respond.
Well, but it's worse than what you're saying, because there was a guy just yesterday that gets up there, and the topic of the room was, it was ICE, right? They were talking about Trump's border policies, and this guy got up there and said that ICE is getting paid. The ICE agents get paid for every deportation, which is something that was super easy to fact check. Then they had another person that got up and said, "Thanks for making that point. I was going to say that." And it's like, wait a minute, like, these are easily fact check fucking issues.
Right.
And nobody's able to push back. And then Gary only pushes back on selective things and on selective people.
Correct.
And so it's just weird. And then the idea that they closed the chat because somebody called him a racist one day. And so instead of being able to moderate the chat, they closed the chat. Then after people complained a lot, they created a chat on fucking of all apps, Facebook, right? So they've got a Facebook chat that you can join. It's just great. The whole thing is backwards.
It is, but here's what I think. I think the reason that he runs it the way he does it is because he's an actual journalist, and I think it's all about his content research. I think that, like, the reason he doesn't want me to talk to you and you to talk to me and for us to have a conversation or even to fact check. I think if he hears something that's interesting, he probably takes a note of it and he fact checks it later before he ever writes about it. But I think he's looking for people to give him ingredients for his articles. I think it's his way of, like, picking the brains of other people so that he can probably use some of what's being said in whatever he's going to write later. And from that perspective, that's why he's holding those rooms. To explain why he's okay with them talking for 5 minutes one at a time.
Well, what he could do though is he could take the boringest people that don't have shit to say, like the David Garcias and the fucking Ramon Crest of the world, and just don't bring them up. There's some people that are just not well informed and they don't have interesting shit to say. Like he's not gonna get anything good from something, like from most of those people. And then the people that he could get something good from, like somebody like Anson, he'll like argue with Anson and then fucking dismiss him and put him down. It's like, dude, like the one guy with the real world experience that could add something to the conversation, and he doesn't want to.
He was a fucking nuclear submarine captain. Like, that's pretty fascinating to talk to, right? When you're talking about geopolitical issues. But he gets treated with the same endeavor as like some fucking goofball idiot that also takes five.
Yeah, hey, Anderson, that's enough from you. We're gonna sit you down and then, hey, next on stage is Monster.
And you're right about people saying stupid shit, and you can't say, that's not true, because you're like, stop talking. Have you ever been there when Victoria loses her shit? You know Victoria, she's super hyper liberal, right?
Yeah, well, hold on, Mike, you know Victoria's coming here and it claims that she's briefed 3 separate presidents in the Situation Room?
Oh, she really has? Oh, that's hysterical.
That's her claim.
She'll sit in his room and someone will say something and she'll just be losing her shit, right? Because she's so hyper liberal and that room is generally very conservative. And she'll be losing her shit and she'll want so bad to argue. And then she'll like chime in, just something simple like, that's not true. And he'd be like, stop, I'm gonna send you down if you do it one more time. And she cannot resist herself. She's like, that's not true. And she'll be like, that's fine, I'm kicking you out. And you'll kick her out, and she'll leave. But I don't think I've ever heard her actually, like, she'll be like 6th in line. She's never made it to 6th in line. She has such little self-control that she literally can't sit on stage long enough to get her through.
The other part of that room that's fucking just horrible is when Scott Jones thinks that he's doing a good impersonation of Donald Trump.
Oh, it's cringe.
He's got the worst Donald Trump fucking impersonation. And
it's so cringy. It's so cringy.
Gary's like old and can't hear well, so he probably thinks it's fucking funny.
No, it's so cringy. And Scott Jones in the middle of like.
Well, do you guys remember when you brought up some issues about chillism? The guy hurried up and left. He said what he had to say and he left. I was like, okay, I see what we're working with now.
You know, Mike, I picture when Gary hears Scott doing the Donald Trump impersonation, he's probably laughing on the other end and having memories of Rich Little being on Johnny Carson and thinking that Scott's the second coming of Rich Little.
Yo, John, you there?
He's got a campaign to run. What's going on here?
No, he called me just a minute ago and I ignored the call, so I was seeing if he's still there.
The one thing I'll say about Gary is he's very, very consistent. The guy frickin' runs that damn room down to the second at 5 p.m. every fucking weekday.
Dude, you know what was crazy? Is we did the counter programming over here. We created a house called the Rational Discussion Group. We start at the same time that he starts his room, and we use the same title that he used. But somebody pointed out to me that because he's so on time, he opens the room 5 minutes early. So starting on Monday, we're gonna start 10 minutes early.
Yeah, he does it exactly 5 minutes. So you can do 6 minutes and still beat him, because he will be consistently exactly 5 minutes, down to the fucking second. And he won't start talking until the top of the hour. Like he'll watch that second hand, and he'll immediately start.
There is something refreshing about that part of it. Like,
but he says it's because of his broadcasting days, because he was in broadcasting as well, and he says it's ingrained in him. He can't not do it, which I find it refreshing too, actually.
Yeah, that part's cool.
Because you can count on it. I mean, if you do like being on the radio.
The other thing, though, is like, he's trying to get a serious conversation, and then he's got Scott Jones. I can only imagine what Scott is doing. Scott's probably been in his back channel begging him, You gotta put me in, Gary. You gotta put me in. I do.
Sound like him. That's a pretty good interpretation.
I do impersonations, Gary.
You do an impersonation of Scott doing an impersonation of other people.
Scott's an interesting guy. I wish Scott would come in here. We could. I think Scott would agree with me that his impersonation's terrible.
He would. He's a good guy. He's there every day. He's always the first one to talk. And honestly, I get tired of hearing from him sometimes, but that's what it is.
Remember when Meryl was a co-host?
Yeah, she would fight with Gary all the time. All the time. She still shows up sometimes, but she doesn't get on it anymore.
She spoke yesterday, and it was pretty funny. Scott had made some mention about dildos and sodomy laws. Had nothing to do with the topic. And then when Meryl gets up there, she built on the point that Scott made. And then when I got up there, I was just like, hey, what's going on? How come nobody's on topic? You got Meryl over here talking about dildos and sodomy? And like, it's hilarious.
He's the perfect person to like do that with too. Because it'll hurt his feelings so bad that he'll beat himself up for being a bad moderator.
Well, when I criticized the chat, he's all, this is part of the other thing. He goes, well, if you don't like how I run the room, you could go start your own room. And then, so today we did just that. We're counter programming. What excites me about the counter programming, it wasn't even my idea. It was Anson's idea. Anson's the one that came to me in my back channel and said, yeah, I just can't do that other room anymore. I wish there was a space. And then I said, well, why don't you do it? And he goes, maybe I will. And then I go, okay, it's done. So then I created the house. And then
Anson became tired of being in that room?
He won't do it. Yeah. And today we had I guarantee our conversation was better than what they had. Because we had people, we had Anson talking about the topic, and over there you've got okay, now let's hear from Monsef. I mean, there's no way Monsef is going to break down these issues more than Anson.
Well, and if you allow a little follow-up and a little bit of back and forth right there, that automatically makes the room less awkward. His room is really awkward. And
the only difference that we had in our title is we had the title word for word, but then I added with chat. So
he used to not even allow thumbs up and stuff too. He finally opened that up, but it used to be you couldn't even do that. So you'd have to sit there and listen for an hour to wait your turn, and you couldn't even say good job to somebody that was making.
I like going in there and doing the thumbs down to people like Victoria before she's even speaking. Oh man, it is a fun room to troll because you can use the GIFs. People are talking, and I'm just using the wrap it up GIF that you with Jimmy Fallon. That's my favorite GIF for that room. Christy likes that room though. I don't know what it is with Christy and old white men. She likes sitting in rooms listening to, oh, they sound so professional, these old white fellas. She probably likes those old white guys on the Muppets too that sat up in the fucking balcony.
Do you like the biggest old white guy here, Steve? Does she like him? Listen to Steve.
You mean Steve Appel or Steve?
Yeah, Steve Appel. Steve Appel. He's so loud sometimes. I like Steve Appel. I don't dislike him. He's just so fucking loud sometimes. Just the way he has his mic set up, that he'll just bust into somebody.
That's the God mic. I had a chance to meet up with Steve Appel when I was in LA, and Dr. Jordan and I went over and crashed his pad, and it was cool, man. We're chilling with Steve and his dog, and he's got classic rock and roll going on in the back, like 50s rock, 60s rock, and we're just chatting. It was cool. Steve and Dr. Jordan are both 100% exactly what you would expect them to be like.
Does Steve have a mic set up, like a DJ hanging down in front of a mic thing?
in his house? Is that what he talks into?
I don't know, I didn't see his setup, to be honest. We
Okay.
chilled in the living room.
I picture him like acting like a DJ, like full on, all out DJ when he's on Clubhouse.
I like Steve, he's fun.
Yeah, I've always liked him. He named a rule after me, apparently, that people think I'm famous for on here now, which is really funny. People that follow him. They call it the Mike Moon rule, and he still calls it that all the time. But I was giving him shit one time because I was like, you need to let people go back and forth sometimes, because he's so, I don't know. I don't think he's a narcissist, but he just is so domineering sometimes that, like, two people want to talk, and he'll keep interrupting in the middle of the two people. And I said, like, Steve, you need to back down with these two, talk back and forth sometimes, to let the conversation develop a little bit without your input all the time. And
So, here's what
that was a great idea. You call it the Mike Moon rule, so you can request it and you can talk to somebody directly.
I think Steve is genuinely interested in having good conversations, which is rare on this app. I can't even say that like with a straight face anymore. Once upon a time, I felt like I was genuinely interested in that. Now it's just like, you know, this is post-apocalyptic. Like, there's no more rules.
Well, you definitely troll a hell of a lot more than you did before you left.
Although I did create rules. Just yesterday I created rules. Have you read the rules of this house?
I have not. I'll go check them out.
I bet Christy likes the rules of this house. Christy seems like someone that appreciates rules.
But you've got a good speaking voice. Have you ever thought of taping what you do for a podcast?
Why would I have to do that? It streams on YouTube 24/7.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Oh,
great.
Yeah. What you just said, there's dozens of people listening to that right now on YouTube.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. I was like, those are things that it means to say. Oh, okay. Well, can I have the link?
Matthew, can you get her a link and put it in the chat for, where we stream this?
Mojo, whatever happened to the Liberty folks, the two of them?
You mean Connie and, Jimmy?
Yeah, whatever happened to them?
Connie had some things going on, and Jimmy's been busy with work, but more importantly, like, the Liberty movement just died because when the Libertarian Party decided to essentially endorse Donald Trump, well, not officially because they couldn't with their bylaws, but all of the people that were influential were personally endorsing him. Christy, the reason why it's English only is because if I don't do that, you have people typing in the chat in a language that I can't moderate. And so I then don't know if they're insulting someone, doxing somebody. They could be doing something really problematic, and I just wouldn't even know it.
Plus, you're just super racist.
And there's that. But you can't call me homophobic, not with this photo of mine. Serendipity, you still right?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna make a joke earlier, and at the moment passed. I won't say it now, but like, it was a throwback, a callback to a different room about one.
Yeah, I found out why John's not answering. He's fucking at his computer. Down in the bar drinking.
Nah, he's probably down at the gym.
And he said he did some shit in like northwest Chicago, some like the area where there's all the nightclubs and bars.
Him and Hakima are supposed to meet up for a beer.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. And he said he's in northwest Chicago.
Roger.
Talk to me.
will you ask Messi why he won't talk to me? You were meaner to him in that room than I was.
That wasn't talking.
No, I wasn't
He
mean.
asked you on 3 separate occasions a question and you have been silent.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I'd let you guys know I was working.
Look, I wasn't mean to Rich. I just, I reject his style of evangelizing. I think that, look, I once.
Let's not do it again.
Well, hold on.
He is. He's doing the Nathan thing. He's like building
No,
back
let's
into
not
it.
do it again because
Hold on. No, hold on. I want to just make this very clear. Because Rich and I used to have problems on the app, and then I've come back, and I actually like Rich. But when people say Rich can be problematic, I understand where that comes from. He's just
I do too.
He's not a bad guy. He's just stubborn. But this is an issue where I genuinely think, like, that it's not going to have the impact that he thinks it's going to have. Because if somebody already believes what he believes, then he doesn't need to say it, right? All he's got to do is point them to the scripture, right? But if they don't believe what he believes, then you have to have a starting point that's not, condemnation. And that's my only point. I just don't find that it would be effective to solve a problem. Unless what you're hoping to do is just make somebody feel terrible about themselves. Because if they did believe what you believe and they still didn't want to retreat from their sin, and you're telling them that, you're just going to make them feel bad. And I don't, your answer to that would probably be something like, well, if they save their soul, I don't care if they feel bad. But if your goal...
Oh, no, I can explain real quick what...
Sure, but if you wanted to help them, why wouldn't you just give them a baby step? Give them a baby step.
So if it's somebody that's genuinely interested in knowing about God, and it's like 5 or 6 people that I've talked to that have came to Christ, and not by my work at all, anything, just like telling them what the scripture is and like helping them understand things in the scripture, has always been somebody that like, I brought up like the Bible to this guy named Scott, and he's a Hispanic guy that I know here in Lubbock, and I brought up the Bible a couple times, and he's just like, yeah, I'm an atheist, I don't really believe all that stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just kind of left it alone, and I was like, that's cool, man. I'm like, but I usually don't try to argue with atheists or people that want to like be contentious against Christianity. I'll tell them what the facts are, and if they want to accept it, it's on them. If they don't, it's their choice. But one day we were standing around, and he's like, hey, man, he's like, I got a question about the Bible. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I started dating this girl, and she like, wants me to go to church on Sunday, and I was sitting in church, and I heard these like things that I didn't understand, and I like broke it down, and I was bringing up verses in the Bible about like trying to break down what the meaning of the scriptures are, things that people think are like contentious in the scriptures. And then like a week later, he came up to me, he's like, hey man, he's like, I just want to let you know, he's like, I gave my life to Christ. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, he's like, and I owe it to you. He's like, because, you helped me understand some of the scriptures and the verses, and then it made sense. He said, I was looking at it like, oh wow, God seems like a dickhead here, why is he having such an ass? That I just broke it down to him through Bible Hub and stuff, the verses, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I'm a follower of Christ now. And I just thought that was so cool, man, but it was just like he was open to hear. But when like these atheists or, people that call themselves like deists or other stuff, and they're like, yeah, but I don't believe in the Sky Daddy Bible, your version of God, I'm just like, okay, cool. I'll argue with them and stuff like that, but I'm not genuinely trying to preach to them or tell them, like, evangelize, because I know they don't give a shit. And you can go in Andrew R's room and talk to frickin' Piper all day about God, try to convince them and stuff, and they'll spit on you and just piss on you until you go fuck yourself and you're Sky Daddy. So I don't deal with that type of shit anymore. I tried talking to the atheists, and they were just so fucking abhorrent that I was just like, oh, screw them. Well, it's their choice. They choose to offer samples and move on to the next town. Go to the people that are actually want to know.
I'm just glad he's talking. I like Rich too, and I think he's messy, but I like him. And I don't want to get my feelings hurt.
My problem is serendipity. I'm not full punches. Like,
That's why I like you.
Yeah, somebody comes at me. My dad's the same way. Yeah, I have that Peter, like Peter, case of the Bible. Like somebody comes at me, I'm pulling out my sword to cut their ear off. And I know I shouldn't. But at the same time, it's like if you're gonna come up and be like, oh, you're faggot,
Peter's a great one. But you know what you could do? You could be just a teeny tiny little bit nicer than Monica.
Okay, look, here's the thing. This is the last thing I'm gonna say on this. I don't have any hatred for Monica. Even though I'm autistic and people are like, oh, autistic people don't know how to read people, I am fucking hyper observant. And I think a lot of autistic people are hyper observant, but they usually can't like understand the observancy, what they're seeing and understanding. And like my son's like more autistic and on the spectrum than I am, but he picks up everything. That little motherfucker, he'll do some bad shit, and I'll be like, Richie, stop. He'll turn around and smirk at him. You little son of a bitch. He knew what was going on. Like,
Rich, did you know that like back months ago, you and is it Jerome? Is that his name? Jeremy
the atheist? Or
yeah. Do you know Jeremy when he was using the all black background the same way that you were doing? Do you remember that?
I don't remember him doing that, but maybe.
Yeah. So anyways, you guys used to both do it, and Kelly was the one that pointed it out. I couldn't tell you guys apart because like I thought it was one person. I didn't take the time to look at the bios, and you
about it.
No, you were doing fucking crazy shit, and I ended up blocking him. It was fucking crazy. And then you'd fucking show up, and I'm like, I thought I blocked that asshole. And then Kelly explained to me that you guys were different people.
Oh, yeah. Jeremy's over there and talking the apes for him. He's doing the Monica shit that you do, where you're like, yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of Monica. She's okay, but, I'm not a big fan of her, but I'm like doing this, making it pretend like I'm in love with her, and like she's like the greatest thing since sliced bread to like, fuck with people. And Jeremy's doing the same thing with the black people over there, and he's like, yeah, these filthy white people, these demon dog Edomites, and, I hate all these white Christians.
Hold on, let me clarify the Monica thing. I genuinely believe that she is intelligent. I genuinely believe that people think that think she's a racist, I think, are wrong. I understand why they say it, but they're just wrong. I've observed enough I think she's a troll, and she trolls on the topic of race, and so it's very easy to confuse that. But I do think that people are incorrect about that. I think that she's actually got a good heart. I don't think that she's malicious. I don't think she wants to hurt people's feelings. And in fact, because I remember Monica before the trolls. I remember Monica when she was just like, popping into rooms and like, having conversations about Jordan Peterson or fucking Thomas Sowell, and she was kind of playing the straight person without trolling. And then when people on the app, when they get aggressive and they talk their shit or whatever, she was one of the people that when confronted with the idea that like, I don't know, like the grievance culture that, oh, you're white, well then ergo you must be racist. Her reaction to that, like, people say that to me all the time, and like, I'm of the opinion, like, okay, I know what I believe, what I don't believe, so I don't get moved by that stuff. I don't think she'd ever experienced that in the real world, and so I think because she's proud and because she's outspoken and she's willing to defend herself, what she's decided is she's going to push back on that. I think it just deeply offended her, and I don't need you to co-sign. I'll be finished in a second. You can just mute yourself. Thank you, lady. Anyways, I think Monica's misunderstood. The biggest mistake Monica's ever made, and I told her this, is when she would do rooms with Sean Coleman. Now, Sean Coleman is an absolute piece of shit, and I won't have this debate with anybody. I've already done that, but he's a piece of shit. And I told her, I go, look, you're different than he is. And then she's like, well, he's got the right to freedom of speech. And then I'm like, Monica, this isn't the fight you want. This is not the fight. He's different. Because Sean Coleman's also not stupid, but Sean Coleman actually hates people that are not like him. It he genuinely has contempt. But he's able to do these things where he frames things in a way where he will push the envelope, and then if you try to stick it to him and say, that's very racist, then he'll go, oh, what did I say? But he gets into this whole, I don't know, he's a big believer in the bell curve and shit like that, and he's just a fucking racist. And I had a tiff with Monica because she didn't listen to me. When I try to help somebody, and in good faith, and so that was the only riff that Monica and I had where I was like, dude, that's a bad look, and she would double down. Same thing happened with Sarah, but in a worse way, where Sarah would love up on Pepe, and you guys could like Pepe, hate Pepe, whatever. Pepe's Pepe. I'm not convinced Pepe's a racist, by the way, but where I know that Sean Coleman is. I think Pepe is just an extreme troll. The thing is, it doesn't matter if he is a racist or not. He's so comfortable in letting the whole world believe that he's a racist that he might as well be a racist. And so it doesn't matter. Whether it's in his heart and soul, I don't know. But I do think that if you were to show me that Sean Coleman did something to harm people of color, wouldn't surprise me at all. If you showed me that Pepe did that would shock me. I think there's levels to this, and I don't think Monica's on those levels at all.
No, I don't. Roger, here's the thing. I don't think she's a classical Ku Klux Klan neo-Nazi racist, but I think she espouses a lot of racist fucking shit, tropes and stuff. I mean, like I was saying about the Discord, people will be like, Monica's not racist, and I'm like, she literally just fucking posted Nick Fuentes bullshit on Nick Fuentes' fucking Twitter account, or people that are adjacent to him that are neo-Nazis, and she'll post these things about talking about statistical numbers of black people committing violence, and then you click on the Twitter and you're like, oh, this is a fucking neo-Nazi fucking Twitter. Why does she keep posting neo-Nazi shit? And then she'll put in the Discord, she'll be like, oh yeah, the fucking North American pavement apes, talking about black people, or she'll sit there and do the mud shark shit, and that's why I always give her shit about mud sharks. Because she constantly posts in the fucking Discord, oh, these fucking mud shark fucking fat white women and shit. And I think she has a white superiority complex that she believes that there's a hierarchy that whites are better than everybody else.
But she's gonna get away with it because someone said that she has a black boyfriend.
She doesn't.
So
She's saying
what she's saying, but it's not blanket. And as long as it's not blanket, everybody's not like me. I'm not gonna say anything.
So the last thing I'll say about this real fast is the one thing that fucking will set me off more than anything is when I can pick up on somebody's toothpaste. If you're genuinely coming in and you're like, yeah, I don't fucking like black people, or I don't like fucking Jews, I'm totally fine with that. I believe in freedom of speech. I hate when somebody comes in and they're like, oh, no, I'm not racist, but they're North American pavement apes and mud sharks and posting fucking Nazi fucking shit in the Discord. And I'm like, wait a minute, hey, did you guys see this fucking white fucking fat bitch who pretends to be nice is, on here fucking...
Dude.
Okay, I shouldn't have said that because I mean...
Look, this is the issue, Rich. To make your point, you want to make the most extreme argument. The fact that she's not even here, we probably shouldn't even be talking about her.
Yeah, I agree.
All I'm saying is that I think that people are wrong. I listen to people a lot, and I know you do too. And I've been on this app fucking, there was a time when I was on this fucking app 20 hours a day. Believe it or not, 20 fucking hours a day. This was crack for me in its prime. I listen to people, and I'm telling you, that is not a racist woman. She's a troll, and she's hilarious, and she's brilliant. I can say all these complimentary things, and I've told her I understand why people think that she's racist.
but I know that she's not.
Yeah.
I know that she's not.
So you know Jinx, the scientist chick, the like cute black chick that is married to the white guy and stuff. Jinx.
The one that's a scientist and drives a
Yeah, the scientist.
Is that the one that taxes?
Drives by spits on the homeless people. Like her, I called her out, Chills, and I kept telling her about it, like, this bitch is fucking two-faced. And they're like, no, she's not. She's really, really sweet. And then she got super pissed off because Nathan and them were fucking with her, and they never modded her up, and she'd been in the room for like 6 months. And they were modding every other new chick that came in the room and saying, oh, Star is like the greatest fucking woman we've ever had here. And Jinx finally crashed out, and she's like, I do all these game rooms and these, like, fun, things and stuff, and try to do all this amazing stuff, and you never fucking modded me up, Nathan. And then she went from this sweet lady to sitting there saying, oh, Nathan, I think your fucking son has an extra fucking chromosome and is fucking retarded. Like, because his son in the background will start making, like, all kinds of noise and shit. And he'll be like, it seems like he's autistic or something.
Don't let me hear that.
But yeah, she's like, why don't you go deal with your fucking 5-year-old son who can't even fucking know his ABCs? He probably has a fucking extra chromosome, Nathan. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's such a, like, terrible fucking person. I'm like, I've been telling you guys that for 6 months now.
They get down on Nathan. They say he owns a pineapple plantation, so he's polyamorous. They really give him shit. But he doesn't.
Hold on. Mistake number one is people going into that room. That's mistake number one.
I don't go in there anymore. They only ping me if I'm in someone else's room. But I haven't answered in months, so I don't think they pinged me lately.
For some reason, they have a nickname for me. They call me Blowjobs. I have no idea how I earned that name.
That's not good.
Yes, they call me Blowjobs.
They want me to be like Nathan, because he's got a pineapple. They told me the history.
Christy, we're talking about chillism.
Yeah, they told me the history behind pineapple, because I hadn't thought about it. And they told me what it meant.
Oh, Christy, also to answer your question, not everybody, but I think Christy's here, is she?
Yeah, of course, Christy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there she is, yeah. Neurodivergent, autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's, ADHD, and ODD, oppositional defiant disorders. So, yeah, I can't speak for everybody else though. But there is a lot of fucking autistic people on this app. She said everybody on this fucking app's neurodivergent.
Well, look, you can be neurodivergent, but I believe that just like autism lives on a spectrum, like the spectrum is not what people think. It's like some people think it's severe, it's mild. There's a good autism where you can weaponize it and make it a superpower, and then there's an autism where fucking you can get nothing done and you're fucking hopeless. You take somebody like Io, I don't think he would be who he is without autism. Anytime people argue about the smartest people on this app, that guy, if we had to IQ test people, unless it's somebody I've just never seen on this app, I would put my money on Io's highest IQ.
Yeah, Ethan Muse, even Io concedes it, Ethan Muse, and he's actually a theist, like he believes in God. But what's wild about him, and a lot of people say he's LARPing as a theist, that he's a supposed Orthodox Christian and stuff like that, but he's probably one of the most brilliant people I've ever met, and he's so fucking beyond. You couldn't bring him in, and no offense, you couldn't bring him in here at Chillism, because just nobody would be able to track the conversation. It takes the Andrew R type rooms with a lot of guys that are fucking hyper intelligent, fucking autists, fucking retards. But yeah, when you get him around these guys that have like fucking 5 PhDs and shit, even them, they're fucking impressed. And like he's brought a lot of them from like atheist to like agnostic, or even from atheist to like at least being a deist or a theist. Like I mean, it's wild.
I'll make a statement, and hopefully he's not listening, but I would imagine that John, future Congressman, is among the top 1% highest IQ on this app. Nobody wants to talk about that though, because they're so mad at him for.
Yeah, I mean, he's a graduate of the Citadel. I mean, he served in the Army. He also worked for the Central Intelligence Agency. Then, I mean, now he's got like fucking mental health issues, and that's unfortunate. But
I told him all that. I told him I did say to us.
Yeah, you don't have to hold on.
That's yeah. I don't know. That's see.
No,
That's
he's admitted to it, that's what I'm saying.
you're crossing the line.
Of the 299 people that I have blocked, I think 297 of them are.
Totally. And listen, the fact that he's on these stages like every day now, there's nobody on this app that he trolled harder than me. Not a single person. He created YouTube channels in my name. He created multiple accounts in my name, houses in my name. It's like I said, there's nobody that he's trolled harder.
I get messages almost every single day. I can't believe you're saying that was
Who's that from, JD?
Everybody.
Joe B, for whatever reason, maybe because of her days at the NSA, she does not like John.
Well, I kind of, like, when they came out with the anonymous feature, it was just like, it's a moot point.
That's exactly where I was at.
No, getting around it, and if you can't beat them, you have to join them.
That is exactly what I said. When I realized, like, somebody said, hey, John's streaming the room, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like trying to guess who it might be, and I used to be really good at figuring it out. And then it's like, and then the anonymous feature, like, I couldn't do it. And then it's like, so if I can't do anything about it, why would I even worry about it? Like you should not worry about the things you can't control.
Exactly. And, the only reason I started mass blocking him is because he really pissed me off. He got removed, somebody removed him from one of Ann and Monica's rooms one time, because, that's just what everybody did. And then he came in with another account, and he pretended to be this black guy. He comes up on the stage, and he's like, oh, he's not teenager, white women, that's he carried on this whole time. It took about 15 minutes before anybody picked up on the fact that it was actually him. I was like,
when I told Roger, I was like, hey, we should get you on in here and run for Congress, all that shit. I called him and I was like, listen, John, I'm like, you gotta like fucking chill out. You can't come in here and crash out and and all this, like fucking it's all a fucking psyop and a mind fuck and all this. And I'm like, you just gotta like chill out, dude. And he's like, okay, I'll try my best. And then now he's been in here for like how many weeks and he's like totally normal. So he's feeling really good. I'll give him props.
I wouldn't say totally normal.
My favorite room was earlier today when Anson and Moose have mob houses and John's crashing out and fucking Anson trying to be patient because he doesn't want to kill the vibe of the room, so you let him go longer than he wanted to, and then he's just like, okay, we got to move on, you're off topic.
The only time that you could get John back in the day to like get serious and like stop trolling and messing around and just being silly and shit was whenever it came up to Israel, God, this shit. He would like drop the whole fucking facade of the charade, and he'd be like, all right, listen here, you fucking Palestinian piece of shit. And he would just go off, and we're like, oh wow, this is like normal, John. This is amazing. But yeah, he's one of the sweetest guys on here.
Well, there were two things that won me over. The first was the acceptance that I couldn't do anything. The app, they created these rules where, I've had these conversations with them privately as well as publicly on the app. Like, hey, I don't put on replays. People, will open up more when they're not being recorded, and like you're violating their privacy and their desire to not be recorded. And so, like, I had a problem with it because I was going out of my way to make sure that this was a room that didn't have replay. So once Clubhouse made that a moot point, it's like, oh, okay, well, I can't be mad at that. So then once I accepted that, I started looking at some of the stuff he was doing. People started sending me shit, and I was looking at what he was putting on YouTube with the mirrors room. And I'm telling you, I think there's a legit possibility that if a security agency, whether in this country or somewhere else, were to listen to a mirrors room, I think like arrests would be made. And and like, I don't want to overstate this, but I think that there's a world in which the streaming of audio on Clubhouse onto YouTube, he may end up, as much as people might not like the tactics, he may end up becoming the hero of this story. MGK, you're on the spectrum too, right, brother?
Shit, probably.
Like slightly. You got a touch of the tisms, right?
You know, I've been thinking about it lately, and I think it seems likely. It's a little bit of a three thing, which is like maybe a little bit of autism. I'm not so sure about that, but definitely ADHD and a little bit of, you know, a flavor of OCD too. Makes you know, that's pretty much it for me though. So yeah, a mix of all those. That's sort of but to me, for me, they're like definitely a superpower, to the point where it just helps me, it actually helps me think through things as clear as possible. I'm very OCD about sort of logical consistency and things like that. So yeah, it definitely uses my advantage.
Do you guys remember Tommy? Serendipity, you gotta remember Tommy.
Yes, I do.
So that would be an example of bad autism, where it's just like the record skips and it's on the worst song.
Monica and Tommy were buddies for a while there too.
Yeah, that was another one of her questionable moves. But again,
She doesn't like it when you tell her who she shouldn't associate with, and she will dig 10 toes deep.
especially because she arrives at this thing of like, I believe in free speech. Like, and so if you challenge her on her association, that's what she digs in. And she will, when she gets dug in, then she'll ignore the obvious red flags of why it should be a problem. Tommy, when houses were first created, we had this concept called a lobby, where you had no moderation tools. You couldn't mute people, you couldn't move people, you couldn't remove them from the room, you couldn't do anything. And he pops in there and he realized, like, oh, they can't do anything, right? And so he just goes on this anti-Semitic rant. It was crazy. It was like, it was almost scary, like how he was going, and he was going after Abby, and I was frustrated because it was in my house, but it was in the lobby, so I couldn't do anything. And thankfully, the one good thing that Joe Armenia has ever done is he came in the room. That room blew the fuck up. This was like, post prime of Clubhouse, where, if you get like, 100 people in a room, you're doing really good. There was like over 1,000 people in the fucking room, and Joe Armenia, they showed up just to see, hey, what's going on? And it was like the only lobby that ever really blew up. And this ruined the concept of it. I think they rethought it when they realized, like, oh shit, what if somebody's crashing out hard like this? So Tommy got clipped in real time in front of everybody, like mid-sentence. And so, and he's never been on the app to my knowledge since then. So I think they got a nice little device level block. And so he's been gone, but he was a dickhead.
My biggest frustration with her was over Ollie Alexander.
Ollie Alexander's another one. I remember Ashlyn, who, nice, but naive girl. No, she shouldn't hate her. She's a naive girl. She wants to believe the best in people, and somebody that was charismatic and was captivating the space that she was in, showed her attention, and he won her over. And like, and so, I mean, like, he uses those same skills to groom little boys, but he won over her, and he won over Jazzy, probably some other people, but really got them like knee deep in his shit. And that was kind of sad, because Ashlyn was, I genuinely think she's a nice person, but she was very easily led And
she's super nice, right? I'm not saying that.
yeah,
I'm not saying
she's
hater.
just so naive. She's
I
just so naive.
should say I hate listening to her talk because she never makes any fucking sense. She doesn't really know what she's talking about. She just kind of buys into all the shit like you're saying, the naivete. And she just buys it hook, line, and sinker, just runs with it, and then just rambles on for like fucking, and people let her ramble for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, God, when is she gonna shut up so somebody can like,
Rich,
back?
Rich, I don't know if you want to share, but like, your oldest kid, how old?
7.
Okay, so when your kids become like teenagers or beyond that, like, there's a possibility, I hope not, and with you around, maybe not, it could be that the kid would be naive. What I saw with Ashlyn was like, this is somebody's daughter. You know what I mean? And I felt like there was no real helping her because she was so naive that she's gonna fall for everybody's bullshit. And like, you could try to give her advice, but she's the kind of person that if somebody said, hey, want some candy, come get in the van, she would have been in the van. She would have took the candy. And that was what fucking scared me for her, was like, she was in all the spaces with the worst fucking people, and then what happens? She leaves the app and like literally followed the worst people, like into her personal life, like deeply involved with some of the worst people. And I don't think she's
back on here now.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's in JB's room all the time, and he lets her talk for like fucking 30 minutes. She'll just get up. She's like, can I say something? And then she goes, blah, 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 blah. It like makes no point.
Oh, wait, are you sure? Are you talking about Ashley or Ashlyn?
Ashlyn, the black lady who's, was this
No.
special, different lady?
No, Ashlyn is a white girl from Texas.
Oh, no, okay, do you know who Ashlyn is? She's the guy that, she has all the fucking Special Olympics. I don't know what she's at.
Oh, you're talking about Ashton.
Which one?
The black one,
Ashton.
Ashton.
Oh my god, that lady.
Yeah,
She's so fucking dumb.
Yeah. You know, it's like Ashton's also nice, but I could take
Ashton, that's her name.
I could take maybe 35 seconds of her.
Yeah, and they just let her go. When any state she's on, they make her a mod or something, they just let her, she's like, I'd like to say something, Ashton does. And she'll just sit there for like 30 minutes and ramble on, and everybody's in the chat like, half the people are like, oh wow, we love Ashton, and then the other half are like, dude, like, somebody shut her the fuck up. Like, everything she's saying is just fucking wrong. But yeah, she's indoctrinated as shit. She's like far lefty, hates Trump. I mean, it's just fucking terrible.
But she does have a cool southern accent. You gotta give her that.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I'm 20 seconds in, listen to her, and I leave the room.
She's somebody that when I had the old profile, I had blocked at one point because I didn't have the heart to be mean to her. But I couldn't put up with it, so I just blocked her.
Yeah, I can't really be mean to her publicly either, because she's like, you know, I got 4 college degrees and a PhD, and I got 7, medals in the Special Olympics, and blah, 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 and she just starts talking, I'm like, oh, God, I can't do it.
What do you guys want to talk about on Monday in the rational discussion group? What are we going to do? I don't think we're going to copy Gary's room again. But we will do it at the same time, just to make sure that people have an alternative to that space. What's the topic you think we should do on Monday?
What do you guys want to talk about?
What's something spicy?
Have John live stream on here so and talk about that stuff. You want it spicy.
I don't know how to frame it in a title, but I do think this Epstein thing is very weird. The observation that I have is the cognitive dissonance where Democrats will look at the Epstein thing and go, yeah, we need to get into the files because we need to show that Donald Trump, he was on the Epstein list. And then Republicans are just like, we don't really care that Donald Trump knew Epstein, but man, that fucking Bill Clinton was sure good friends with him. And like, is both of them want to weaponize the Epstein list for their political enemies, but nobody wants to accept that their political heroes are also them. And so it's like, it's pretty funny when you see the dueling photographs of like, you have, the Democrats will show Trump with Epstein, and then it'll be, the photo of Clinton with Epstein. Like, why can't we just say that they're all a bunch of fucking weirdos? I don't get why we can't say that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Like, if anything does come out of Trump being on the Epstein list, you think it's like Trump, like, being all weird, like, the rest of them that were probably into, like, fucking 13-year-olds and shit, or do you think maybe they got a girl that's, like, 17 and a half, and they're like, yeah, she's 20, Trump, or 19, and then he had fucked her, and then they're, like, holding it against them and shit. Like, I get that.
Here's the thing, right?
I just can't picture Trump with, like, a 13-year-old little girl, like, yeah, 13-year-old.
Here's the thing. Clearly, whatever's happened on that island, it was designed to be like fantasy island for the rich and famous, right? Like whatever you wanted, this is the place that you could go, and you'd be away from everybody, and you could do what you want to do. I don't think that means that everybody was diddling kids. I think that they probably sex trafficked adults in there too. But I do think that the mere fact that they're all so connected with them, like if we were watching this as a movie, right? Forget about like your political ideology. You're watching a movie about fictitious, presidential, former presidents, current presidents, and you're watching it. You'd just be watching with horror and saying like, oh man, all these guys are sick. Why are they all with this fucking dude? Like you would have much more moral clarity if you were watching a movie, but people like get weird about it because, oh well, I like what Trump's doing politically in this way, so I'm going to disregard the fact that he's got a fucking crazy relationship with a known sex trafficker.
Yeah, but you'd also have to make the argument for like, for example, I'm not saying it's true, but if somebody in healthy debate who's a big time moderator is in prison, if we found out that person was like a diddler, like would every person in that room be guilty by association, or be like going into that room every day and everybody who's the moderator is guilty, like just for being friends with that person? Like, I mean, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily diddling kids. And, I mean, if it came out that Trump fucked a girl that he thought was 19, 20, 20 years ago, and he thought the girl was fucking 20, and it turns out she's 17 years old and 9 months old, like, I don't think that's a big deal. But if he's fucking like 13, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, then yeah, like, hang this motherfucker, and hang all of them. But, I mean, that is some shady shit that they could have done, too. I mean, they'd be like, yeah, she's 20, then he knocks their bottom out, and then they're like, oh yeah, she was actually 17, Trump. Now you're going to do our bidding. Like, I don't think I would be like enraged if she's like almost 18 or something.
I agree that I think that just because there were assistants doesn't mean that they were necessarily all involved in the diddling of the kids, but I do find it very hard to believe that they didn't all know about it.
Oh yeah, I think they all knew about it. But allegedly Trump said, and what a lot of people say around him, is that once he found out, he told their fucking stuff. Like ban him from all places. But that might not be the true story. Might not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew a guy.
have a conspiracy theory about the Epstein files too.
So real quick, I was just going to mention, one of my dad's best friends was a police chief in Florida, and his son ended up, he was like 15 and she was like 14 or something, or 13 when they started dating. And then they dated all the way through high school and middle school and all that kind of stuff. And then when he was like 20 years old and she was like still 17 and a half, the mom, because the way the law is in the state of Florida, that the parent is the one who gives parental consent for somebody to have sex with a girl who's 16 and over, from 16 to, up to 18, the parents have to be like, yeah, I'm totally fine if you're 19, if you're fucking like 17. So they ended up breaking up, and the mother called the police and had him criminally charged, and he's now a registered sex offender. So that's what I would say about the 17 chick.
Yeah. I have a little conspiracy theory about the Epstein files. I think that they passed through so many hands. I think so many people are implicated in it that when Trump was out, talking about the fact that he would declassify them and share them, I think that they wanted to ensure mutual destruction if he released it on all of them. And I think there's a good likelihood that they potentially maybe embellished some of the information in there that included him, because I don't know, I don't get child pedo vibes from him. I don't really care for him on a lot of personal levels, but I just don't get the child pedo vibes.
And Trump also kind of contradicted himself. The story about Mar-a-Lago kicking out Jeffrey Epstein because they got reports from, one of the residents there that he was being a little weird from one of the younger kids. He came out relatively recent, I want to say within the past week or two, recounting that story, but it was different. He mentioned that it was because Ghislaine was stealing staff from, I guess, his massage area within Mar-a-Lago, and it happened twice, and I think one of the individuals that was apparently taken from the Mar-a-Lago staff was Virginia Gouffre, the girl that came out as the accuser later on.
So could it have been one of the other, could have been a compilation of the two things happening?
Yeah, to your point, I think it could have been one of those entrapment where, maybe his staff hired somebody that would be legal, so it's not necessarily that it was anything sexual, but it could be that it was just kind of dubious hiring practices along with just the connection with this guy.
Yeah, it's kind of like they talk about, the Polish workers and stuff, and he's like, listen, it's like, I owned the fucking company who did the contract work on that building, but then the company who is a contractor who worked for us was the one who employed all the illegal Polish, immigrants or whatever, the undocumented Polish immigrants and stuff, and then they ended up getting sued, and because he was the one building the building, he was financially responsible, and then he fought it in court. So I mean, it's like, just because you hire a contractor and they have a bunch of fucking illegals working for you, I mean, yeah, you are technically liable for it, but, I mean, it's not like Trump was sitting there going, yeah, bring in a bunch of fucking illegal Polacks,
Yeah, and I think he's also worried about, I think the bigger angle is just the public opinion, and then, what that will mean for his power going forward.
I just think if there's actually something about Trump, why didn't they release it when he was running for president? Why would they hold it back until now? Like, it's going to make a difference. Why take him to court, put all these charges against him for something completely different if you guys had beef on Trump?
Oh, Harry, when you first started talking, you sound like Marshall there initially. I was like, I don't see Marshall.
Oh, hell no, bro.
Like, oh, Harry, you did initially started, yeah, I know, you're not a fucking GW fan, like me, you and I. But, yeah, I initially thought it was fucking Marshall.
So I do think, Harry, that you're right, that if they had this smoking gun, they would have released it. I mean, these are the same people that tried to get him thrown in jail, thrown off the ballot, tried to kill him. Of course, if they had this smoking gun, they would have released it. That being said, Trump being uncomfortable releasing it means that one of two things. Either there's some association that he's uncomfortable with sharing, probably not, enough to hang himself, or there's friends that he wants to protect, right? He's either protecting himself or protecting others, and by the way, I don't think there's going to be enough to prosecute anybody. The burden of proof of what you would need to prosecute powerful people like that is just, it would be crazy. And I just don't think any of these people would ever go to jail. And that's the thing that we should change, is that that politicians should not be above the law, especially when it comes to this kind of shit.
Yeah, I would say that the likelihood was probably that Trump looked at the list and he's like, yeah, we're gonna hang these motherfuckers out to dry. Like, this person, oh, bullshit.
Yeah, he probably looked down the list and he's got a golf buddy and he's just like, oh fuck, I can't.
Yeah, some fucking billionaire that donated to his campaign or some shit. He's like, fuck.
I mean, it also could be a double-edged sword where it would take out both sides equally, and there's really no like net benefit for one side, or it could even be outside of our own borders, and there could be a foreign angle that we're looking at. So it's kind of wild.
Well, the other possibility is if you've read his book, he's always talking about leverage, and he's always talking about gaining leverage in order to be able to make a deal. There might be other things that there could be people on there that he's protecting for the fact that he can get something in return. Hey, I'll make sure that this stuff never sees the light of day, but you're gonna have to help me here. And maybe he'll get something in return.
Yeah, he puts these congressmen and senators and he's like, hey, let them know we know what's on the list. Ah, fuck. Well, I guess we're gonna pass that big, beautiful bill now.
All we know is that they're part of the royal family was on that list or had ties to the island. Like you said earlier, Bill Clinton, other high-ranking people as well. People in Congress and Senate that, like you said, probably doesn't want to hang him out to dry. And I think honestly, I think he looks at it as the best interest for the country, because if he was to put some of these people out to hang him out to dry, it could cause, who knows? I mean, it could cause turmoil here, on both sides.
We also have to take into consideration the handlers, whoever the fuck controls the Clinton, like is able to fucking kill whoever the fuck they want. I mean, how good is the Secret Service if you hang Bill Clinton on the fucking dry? Like, Donald Trump might end up on a park bench with clean fucking socks, shooting himself.
Actually, I don't even think that's the worst of his worries. Like at the level that you are, that Trump's at, they've tried to kill him. He's a fucking 80-year-old man. I think the thing that he's got to worry about is that if he really fucks around, like, they could go after his kids. Like that I think that's the leverage that they would have over him, because and by the way, he talks a good game, like he's tough and he's going to deal with all this shit. We will find out how tough he is when we figure out what he's going to do dealing with Putin. The put up or shut up moment for Trump in all of his presidency is going to be the way that he deals with Putin. And it might not be pleasing to everybody, including me, but if he fucking bends over for Putin, that will be his legacy. He's got an opportunity to look him in the eye and do some real fucking American shit. And I'm hoping he does. But Daniel, thanks for coming up. You disagreed with some things in the chat. Wanted to hear from what you guys say.
Hey, look, it's pretty awesome that when I come into your rooms, I'll be in opposition or get booted or whatever. I appreciate the opportunity to say.
Wait, hold on. Who would boot you?
Occasionally in this room, I've not been welcome. So anyway, it's okay. We're here as the president. I guess the question.
You're in the muff. Everybody's welcome in the muff.
Thank you, man. I want to ask you, what would constitute him standing up to him in a way that you would consider satisfactory when you say that?
I think he needs to make the American position clear of what the expectation is, and he needs to ask, what will it take? Where's the off-ramp?
Act.
Stop. He needs to determine where the off-ramp is for Putin. This thing can't continue forever, and Putin has to go home and have a victory at home. He's got to be able to have a parade and say, look what I did, I'm so great. And I don't know what that looks like. If it means taking all of Ukraine, that's an unacceptable thing. And I think that what Trump has to do is draw a clear fucking line in the sand and let Putin know that we're not gonna fucking let him, as a tyrant, just take over, another sovereign nation. I think that's the line in the sand that he has to make, but there may be a concession, and there may be a concession that Zelensky is ready to make, but there's gotta be a line in the sand that he tells Putin not to fucking cross, and he's gotta be willing, if Putin crosses it, to escalate to whatever extent that means.
Okay, so, obviously, national sovereignty has to be respected in some way with a little give and take. So, like, you'd be okay with a little bit of Crimea, let's say, and everybody go home, something like that.
I think at this point, even if they were to take away the, take back the breakaway provinces that have Russian loyalists, but there'd have to be some crazy security assurances. There would have to be, there would have to be some things, because here's what has to happen. In order for this thing to end, Zelensky needs to be able to, well, actually, Zelensky will leave, but whoever comes to power has to be okay with whatever the deal was from the Ukraine side. Putin has to be able to go back home and not have people say, wait a minute, you killed all these Russian soldiers and this is all you got. So everyone's got to get their fucking, to be able to save face. Like the Japanese are famous for this, right? They can surrender, but they had to save face. And so they what Trump needs to do is figure out what does that look like, where Zelensky can look like he put up a good fight, and wow, Ukrainians should be proud for we stood up to the Russians, and Putin's got to get a similar victory, and then Trump has to be able to have his victory lap, at least with his support. They all have to get that, and if you don't have that, then you have no deal. But Trump has to be careful to not give up something that encourages future tyrants.
Has anybody, in all the time you've been on Clubhouse from Ukraine, ever been in any of your rooms, by any chance?
Oh yeah, we used to have people in there all the time. When the sit rep room it ended after Piotr took his victory lap and made it sound like he was the creator of that room, which he wasn't. No, a lot of the people that were highly plugged in. In fact, the best information that came out of Ukraine, I don't know if you guys remember Denny, but Denny was the guy that was piping in all that up to the minute information, and so Denny was the reason that room was good. And then you had a couple other moderators that didn't have their head completely up their ass, like Piotr.
I'm sure you've got this impression. I work with Ukrainians on a weekly basis. I discovered recently the way we have like ceasefire and peace, they have two words, but the way in which they're different says a lot. One is for the cessation of hostilities, another is when the invaders leave. They have to come up with a word in their culture for when the invaders leave, because they've been invaded for so many hundreds of years. I guess you probably got the impression I certainly have is those people will never give up under any circumstances.
No, you would have to completely take away their ability to fight.
Yeah, I just don't see it in any circumstance at all that happening. So much so that there's massive set of climate funding that the European Union set aside and moved almost, but not all of it, almost all of it to Ukraine, to defend Ukraine when the United States slowed down. There is so much steel will out there that I don't think is being quite fully appreciated. Let me put it that way. I won't call it reported, but fully appreciated. I definitely think in a minute Zelensky would leave if he thought that there was going to be a way to secure peace. I don't have a shred of doubt of that. I talk to people who talk to him frequently. The thing more, though, that I'm stricken by is when I've met people from there is this core of, they are going to fight to the last person to keep their land. I think they would compromise on Crimea at this point, though, if they had to, which would be very painful for them, but I think they would. Way to bring into the room of conversation.
I don't know what we just did, but
We'll see. We'll see what he stands up for.
Well, I thought the most interesting part, at least, what Putin proposed before the meeting that's going to be coming up, I guess, in Alaska, is where they agreed upon, is that the territories that he's claiming as part of the deal have decreased from what they were before. So I don't know if Putin's coming to the table with his legs, or with his tail between his legs, or, if he's starting to kind of realize the pressure a little bit more, but it'd be interesting to see what comes of it.
There is one other sticking point besides the territory though, guys, which is whether they can make the deal requiring or not requiring Ukraine and NATO to agree never to be part of NATO. This is fundamental for Putin. And I highly doubt that they'll ever agree to that. I think they're at a reconcilable difference there.
Sorry for my silence, I was creating a poll so we could get our thoughts out there. The poll was posted though. Welcome back to the room, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. I haven't jumped around Clubhouse for a long time, come back, and I don't know what the hell that is, and what the message is, they got DMs and all, and then I look at all of them, and there's rooms that I follow. What is that about?
If you have houses that you follow, it's houses that you follow. Yeah. Some people can add you or invite you, and it'll show up, and you kind of have to click on it to like reject it and opt out, and then it won't show. So if you don't want to show it like you could join a house, or it'll show until you reject the invite.
Right. So all those messages in the all, right, are houses that I follow, but those are just conversations of the houses.
Yeah, it's not just rooms anymore, Timac, so you can post messages for your house, so people can pick them up anytime they want.
Oh, I see.
Group messages.
Like a newsletter almost.
Yeah, an audio message.
Yeah. Okay. But okay, so what do you think, Roger? Is much better? I like little things in you. I like some of these little things. Is it much better in comparison to
I think the poll feature is an advancement, but I don't like the fact that, for example, Daniel selected Russia troop withdrawal, and I could see it. It should be a secret ballot. This would be better. I also don't like that once we get to about 8 or 9 votes, the percentages will add up to 102% rather than 100%. They don't even do math well. I don't like that when you give the choices, you have to have at least 5 characters in the choices you give. So you can't even set up a simple yes/no poll. I also don't like that when you respond to the poll, the poll response will sit on your profile. I think there's a lot of people that would be responding to this, especially questions like, hey, what's your favorite sexual position? I think once people know that that's going to be on their profile, and for who knows how long, I think there's just a few tweaks that they need to make, but I think all in all, it's still a good feature. I'm glad they added it.
Right. Everybody's brain stops when you said sexual position.
Everybody's thinking about the wall.
It's really cool to hear you break that down, Roger, because am building some features of what's in here on another application, which is filled with surveys and questions and things there. And hearing you break that down was really perfect for me. So that was cool, thanks.
Yeah, I think being anonymous, or at least having the choice to toggle, like, do we want to see it, do we not want to see it?
Oh, perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I'd like to put all the answers in a pool, and anybody can query it any damn way they want to, not just like administrators or something, you know? Anonymously, of course. Like, how many people have used the word sexual position in the last 48 hours or something like that?
It's been used in this room quite a bit in the last 48 hours.
There you go. See, I don't need the artificial intelligence when I have Roger.
T-shirt.
There's always people in the audience and people on stage, and the people that talk on the stage, for the most part, you'd say they feel comfortable talking in public. Do you think the people in the group or in the audience are shy, or do you think they're just, what do you think?
Well, it depends on who we're talking about. Like Jimmy, for example, he's not shy. He's actually, I disagree with him on a few things, but he's like a smart guy and not shy at all. And if he were awake or the conversation grabbed him, he would be in this for sure. Christy, once upon a time, was not a chat warrior. Christy would get on stages, and I think Christy is one of the folks that, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm guessing that if she were in a room and felt it was, I don't know, felt comfortable enough, she will raise her hand when she has something to say. But one of the powers that Christy has is she doesn't get paid by the word. For some reason, some people think they're getting paid by the word here. And so if Christy's got something to say, she'll add it to the chat. If she really wants to jump in, she'll raise her hand and she'll do that. But I think there's some spaces where, rightfully so, people don't feel safe. And like this room, if we're being 100% honest, sometimes we could get a little obnoxious, and there's a little more leeway for trolls and things like that. And so Christy doesn't suffer fools. She doesn't put herself in a situation where somebody might be rude to her. Like, why not stay in the chat so she doesn't have to deal with that kind of crap. So, but I think if she felt super safe and it was a small room and it was a topic that she wanted to add to, like I've heard her add. She's brilliant, by the way. And she's one of the more well-read people that I've seen on this app. So.
Maybe you should do a poll, real quick, maybe you should do a poll when the room's larger, more people in the audience, and, say, what would make you come on stage? I'm a little bit more like with Christians. Sometimes I'll go in the room just to listen. I think there might be 50% are like that, and they're just not in the mood to go up on stage. And if they wanted to, they could. But then I think there's 50% people that just are, don't want to get into any conflict and this kind of thing. So it'd be interesting when you have to take a room to do a poll about that.
That's a good idea. Maybe we'll do some fun polls on Monday when we bring back the Rational Discussion Group, which starts at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. Eastern.
So why would Ukraine give up territory is a question so we just have. So, I've been producing performers for a long time.
Time lock, it's okay, it's time lock, yeah.
Ah, thank you, sorry for that.
You should ask.
We should.
Yeah.
You're right, I should. Thank you for the reminder. Say it one more time, please.
Time lock. Don't say it wrong again, all right, buddy? Just kidding.
Dude, I get your line in the sand. Your identity's intact. So, I've been producing performers for a long time, and I've noticed something on Clubhouse through the whole history of Clubhouse. There are really remarkable examples of people who never found any stage that they could be on, but they could be on Clubhouse, and now in real life they can. That's happened a lot. There's something about the audio-only thing that creates, for some people, this amazing sense of safety. And, we all have our stories of people who've done, amazing things through relationships they've made on this app. And I think there's a certain kind of safety, intimacy, something, familiarity, some weird thing I don't really know how to describe. Just noticing it.
Abby's here. Right. Let's bring Abby up. Abby
I
did
would love to know if Abby thinks it's a good idea to hire into the FBI people who were convicted for January 6 crimes and pardoned. I'd like to know if she thinks that's a good idea by any party.
Well, hold on, but convicted of what on January 6th? There was all kinds of individual crimes that happened on January 6th. Which crimes are you concerned about?
And yes, them on January 6th, it would end up in the FBI, and he would be enriched too.
Any of them? So what if you were at a protest for the first time in your life, and the crowd was moving forward, and you follow the crowd, and you find yourself now caught up on trespassing charges? Do you think that person should always have this scarlet letter?
How about this? Rather than that hypothetical, how about we look at the real example of the person they did actually hire and actually put into those jobs, and let's compare, and you and I can look at it and see whether you think if that was done by the other party, you'd be considering that was okay.
I think that's a good point, but that's also a deviation from your first question.
Well, it is. Well, I know what that's the question. So maybe
right. When I asked you, when I qualified it for any of the days, when I asked you about all of the people, and you said it didn't matter what they did, and
that's the whole thing.
There's some people that were arrested for January 6th that weren't even fucking there.
Okay. Hey, if anybody wasn't there, if there's anybody in that category, I'd totally give it to you, it'd be fine. But I don't think we're gonna find that that's the case. So I'll go dig it up.
Wait, you don't know that to be true?
Oh, no, I definitely know. I'm just getting you the actual reference. Hold on.
Make sure the reference is from an unbiased source when you get the reference. Make sure the news outlet is not a biased news outlet.
Sure. I'm gonna make sure I get it from more than one, actually.
Yeah, but more than one, as long as you're not getting it from, start with MSNBC. Just don't go there. Try to get one from an unbiased source.
Sure.
So, here's the issue. I have January 6th. I have no problem with arresting and charging people for committing crimes. If somebody commits a crime, arrest them. Take them into court. I do think that they more heavily prosecuted it because they catastrophized the idea that it was a quote-unquote insurrection. I think that anyone that uses that term is not a serious person, period, point blank, period. They're exaggerating the point. And I will say this, as someone that thinks that, that the government could use some rebuke from time to time from the people, should we ever get an insurrection, I hope it does not look like that. I would hope that if there was an insurrection, that it wouldn't just be a guided tour. I would hope that, that there would be some intentionality behind it, rather than just what we saw. I think if that was an insurrection, then we were the worst, insurrection. We've fallen off since 1776, I'll put it that way.
Oh, hey, Abby, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, on the UCLA, something I was
Don't
thinking
change the subject, Jesus Christ.
I'm not, just trying to get clarification real fast, and we can go right back. On the UCLA thing that they're pushing, on the, just real quick, the UCLA thing where they're trying to push for, right?
Fight through it.
So the UCLA's,
We're not talking about this, Rich. You jump in the room, there's a conversation
I
going
think
on.
Abby was there, I got all excited. I was like, yeah.
No, that's fine, I got excited when she came in the room too, but now we have a topic, we're talking about January 6th, stay on topic.
Oh, I thought it was about Ukraine and Russia, sorry.
Well, things move fast over here. When you're in the muff, things are in and out.
I'll send you the back channel.
Okay. So am I supposed to
First
answer
of all,
the question, Daniel? Is that what?
I have to first of all correct myself on the record of whether he was convicted. He was not convicted. So let's be clear, I was wrong about that. He was due to be on trial apparently within a matter of days after Trump got elected. But there is a video that is referenced, which people can look at, stating why he was going to be on trial. Now,
So you have an
he was
innocent
not
man.
convicted.
Yeah,
By the law,
innocent
you're
man.
right, he's an innocent man.
Correct.
If you had a video of somebody on the left who is performing the same thing, that's all the measure that I'm asking, would you think it
What
was
was the
would you think it wise, hold on, let me finish my question. Would you think it wise for the FBI to hire that person?
First of all, what was he doing in the video? I mean, the FBI, just like any government agency.
Okay, that's good. Let me finish, you asked the question. Apparently, if this proves to be true, he was urging rioters to kill law enforcement at the Capitol and face 6
How
counts.
did he encourage them to kill?
It's on video. You can look at it on the video for yourself.
Okay, what's he say in the video?
I'll let the video speak for itself.
Well, I'm asking you, if you just said he didn't care, does he say we kill, or?
You grill me, I'm gonna let you
Where's
watch
the-
it.
where's the video?
For themselves.
Okay.
I'm getting it for you.
Person hasn't been convicted of anything.
No, he is innocent in the eyes of the law, there's no doubt about that. I'm just not sure that you'd want somebody to put this on their resume, this video. I just put it in the chat.
I don't know, we got a shit ton of people that the Biden administration hired that have like videos of some pretty outrageous protest moments. We also have a guy that's about to be elected as the fucking mayor of New York on video saying and doing some pretty outrageous things. Like really hateful, outrageous things, and he's gonna end up as the next mayor in New York. So, pretty vulnerable for the population.
I do, and I think one of the things you're referring to is by vote, and one is people you're hiring. That was my question, is it a good idea? When you see that video, should that person be hired by the FBI? That's my question.
It's in the back channel, right?
His videos in the back channel that I'm supposed to look at?
Oh, no, my question. Let's
Alright.
go, yeah, sorry.
Hey, I got a question for Daniel. Daniel, what do you think of charging somebody let's see, seditious conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to prevent discharging duties, destruction of government property, to charge somebody, to convict them, and to sentence them to 22 years, despite the fact that the person was not even in D.C. that day.
That'd be a gross injustice if that was true.
It is true. I will post it.
Okay. Thank you. I play by the times, Roger. You've heard me for a number of years, you know.
Yeah, the reason why this guy was caught up in so much trouble was because it was the leader of the Proud Boys. And the evidence that they have was he was just texting with people that were in attendance. He was told.
Him, okay.
Yeah, in research Harvard. Yeah.
Okay, so you believe that there was a gross injustice perpetrated on Enrico Cherry?
Massive. And that's not me defending him. I think the guy's a dipshit. But he was told that he couldn't go, and he abided by that. And the only thing that he was that the court trial showed was that he was communicating with people that were in his group, his friends group, right? And he was communicating with them via text. As far as coordinating, go over the documents. He was persecuted because of who he was.
Okay, and let me just ask you this question. Is your evidence of that, as you mentioned this specifically, of him not even being there, right? Is that where your conclusion is that he's unfairly targeted because he wasn't physically present?
Well, you can commit crimes when you're not physically present, but the problem is the case itself. Not only was he not there, the evidence against him that he supposedly was orchestrating, where the only evidence that they presented was he was exchanging text messages with people. There was no planning. There's no evidence of that. And then by the way, when they convicted him, because again, I think that he was unfairly treated. They sentenced him to 22 years. Go look at the case. Go look at the facts of the case, and tell me if any human being should spend 22 years in prison for the facts of that case.
Oh, I can imagine there being a whole bunch of lawyers who want to argue that for you, yeah, that he would deserve to be in that based on the evidence. And for you to say that there isn't any evidence, I mean, there were 12 jurors there clearly decided that there was, right, by the law. Like, when we say, oh, the guy I presented with the video is actually innocent under the law, he is innocent under the law. I was wrong. But in the case of Enrico Cherry, he was charged, he was prosecuted, and found guilty. That's a fact. Am I wrong about that?
He was convicted. I'm saying that this was. I think the prosecution was targeting somebody simply because he's the leader of the Proud Boys. I don't think any reasonable person looking at this stuff of a guy that was in a hotel room in Baltimore when January 6th the events unfolded. To target him. Just the mere fact that you care where he was at that day is just fucking weird to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you bring it up as sort of weird to me right now with all clarity that I'm looking for, right? Like, if he did direct it or didn't direct it, had a participation, had some planning in it, like, that is evidence that's got to be presented to a jury. The jury could be hung, they could find him, not guilty, they could find him guilty, of course he can appeal. There have been miscarriages of justice where evidence wasn't allowed that should have been allowed, or new evidence was found, or whatever, right? But there is a due process, right? And he was found guilty. Then you can say, okay, well, now that he's found guilty, compared to all the other sentences that could have been done for people on something similar, it's hard to find something similar, frankly. But if you do a comparison of that, was it actually a fair, meted out punishment? And those are, as far as I'm concerned, two different things as well. But he was found guilty. So if he was unfairly targeted, somehow he ended up guilty by the 12th juror.
So the telegram exchange that they have, he was talking to them about preparing for the event. Warning them that there would be an FBI presence there, telling people to be careful, telling people what gear they should and shouldn't wear. And he was just advising, the same way that I would advise friends if they were going to go to a protest, to be careful to protect yourself. And then they weaponize these words. If you read the transcripts themselves,
you could make the argument that it's possible that there was a conspiracy, but there's no evidence of it. The words themselves are very fucking cryptic. It's just like, be careful, and then once they got into the building, he was cheering them on and saying congratulations. That's not a conspiracy. The only thing he did was advise people that were going to an event that he was not allowed to attend, to be careful. And then once they got in the building, he thought that was cool and radical. Now, again, you could say that him cheering it on is distasteful, but I don't see the conspiracy at all.
I've never thought of this until having this conversation with you tonight, when you talk about the justice system, when people being weaponized and targeting and so on. It's absolutely true for the persecution, prosecution thing. But I haven't seen any evidence of being able to weaponize the jury system. It's a pretty damn good system and very hard to break. And if the evidence finally comes in there, you got preponderance of evidence, that whole thing. At that point, you got to look at the reality. Is there was a case made about him directing that. That's where the default starts, to prove that they got false evidence at the trial, or stuff wasn't included, or something of that nature. But I get the targeting in the first place. You want to make a case for targeting.
Yeah, but Daniel, how would you find an untainted jury for something on January 6th for the leader of the Proud Boys? How do you find people in D.C. that are not familiar with January 6th coverage?
No doubt. I'm really respecting your question that is a challenge, as it has been a challenge in all cases that have transcended the ordinary, and that challenge has to be dealt with. And there are remedies to actually move something to its place. That's not what took place here. Clearly, so far, the justice system is expressing itself as having been able, in this case, to render justice. The targeting is one. The sentence, I think Necro just said, no sentence, maybe should be over 10 years or whatever, like a totally worthwhile debate as well. But I do think there is a reality. This 12-juror system is not that easy to fake.
So I just wanted to point out, 92% of the registered voters, and that's usually how you get on a jury pool, you got to be registered to vote, are Democrat voters in Washington, D.C. So the jury pool literally is made up of 92% Democrats. That's why it should have been moved to a venue for a fair chance for Enrique. However, Daniel, it wasn't honored when they requested that due to the judge keeping it there.
That's a very fair argument. It really is, Joe.
Do you think a Republican can get a fair shot in a jury pool that has 92% when it's such a highly politicized issue?
I don't know for sure. I think it's a legitimate question, right? In any situation where you can do something with the conditions to make it fair, why wouldn't you? Like, it's in your long-term interest to do that. It's the one thing, take a broken system and build it. You don't tear it down more. Of all the systems in the world, I think, before all this shit happened, that you could rely on was the American system. I'm a Canadian saying that. Love America. Deeply love America. And I just think, there's a lot failing about it, but you can make it a lot better. And I just think you start with the stuff you probably can rely on. It's very hard to break elections. I don't care what people say, especially in America. Of all places in the world, it's very hard to break America's elections. To turn people against each other, that's actually really super easy. But the actual vote itself, no. Same thing with this.
So the evidence that was presented that was the most compelling to the jury was a document that was sent to Tarrio, not from Tarrio. It was sent to him about a strategy to occupy crucial buildings. They wanted to occupy buildings, and occupying buildings, by the way, happens left wing, right wing. This is a strategy that protesters do, and it was a strategy document that he didn't write, and it was sent to him. And so the person that wrote the document was not charged, not convicted, clearly, if he wasn't charged. But because of who Tario was, he's responsible for this document that says that, that there was a strategy to occupy buildings. There was a strategy to occupy buildings in Seattle. Nobody was punished for that. There's been strategies to occupy buildings in the 1960s in California by the Black Panthers, right? Like the idea that there was a strategy to occupy these buildings, and he wasn't the one that strategized it. He was just sent the document talking about the strategy. Why wouldn't they go after, if they're interested in the conspiracy, why wouldn't they go after the people that created the strategy guide?
Well, one reason might be that the strategy guy is a war agent and they're sure to make money off of wars and chaos.
You think war is about money?
War agents, definitely. If you do, I forget what it's called, any social studies courses in college level. Hold on.
Daniel, are you under the impression that wars can't be profitable?
No, I'm not under that impression. I'm under the impression of what the statistics tell me, that no more than 5% of our entire world economy is based on anything to do with military, including tertiary effects.
The Biden family made great money off of wars, and a lot of people in the Donbass region tried out democracy and lost limbs. Just saying. And then they asked me, why do I even bother to pay taxes? Because most people outside of the country feel sorry for Black people. And I was like, well, I mean, we're compelled to do it, so whatever. As Abraham Lincoln would say, small price to pay for freedom. I don't remember what course that was, but yeah, war agents are people who that like what's it called, Blackstone or something like that. They make money off of war. And they make tons of it. Not just your contractors, but yeah, they make tons of, they make tons of money off of war.
I love that the title of the room and the topic are not in alignment. We should fix one of this.
Nick really wants to know what you think about birthright citizenship.
More specifically, how you think it will play out of the Supreme Court?
I think the Constitution's pretty clear in what it says. If they rule in a way that clearly contradicts the Constitution, I think that they're going to give a lot of ammunition to Democrats to win the election. And the election in 2028, well, actually the midterm and the election in 2028 will become so important. And the presidential election in 2028 will almost exclusively be about appointing Supreme Court justices. That's not that's not uncommon for that to be an important issue. But I think if they go against the Constitution here, I think that the independents will come back and crush the Republicans in 2028.
See, first of all, the Senate cannot vote on anything that's not constitutional, and it says already there's no absolute right to enter the country. And for that reason, I don't even do a lot of traveling in and out.
You're missing the point, Connie. You're speaking completely past the point. The point is that if you're born in the United States, you're a citizen.
I don't see that anywhere in the writing of the Constitution.
Yeah,
I don't see that anywhere. I mean, people get.
Have you come to Congressman Kitover's rooms where he reads the Constitution aloud?
No, because Congressman I'm not a constituent of his.
Mm.
But I think he's pinged me a couple of times.
But the rooms in which but in the rooms where he reads the Constitution aloud, Connie, do you think that you're very familiar with the Constitution? Like scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not really at all.
Very familiar.
Okay,
familiar. And
excellent. Hold on. I have a question for you. What's the Third Amendment?
I don't know right now. I'm not looking at it right now.
And this is what I mean by people claiming to be constitutional
I don't
scholars.
just because I don't
and to say that
it doesn't mean I don't understand it.
Yeah, well listen, if you don't know the Third Amendment, you probably shouldn't say that you're well informed on the Constitution. I'm just saying.
Bottom line that 2 for 2, he's the last person to vote was the U.S. Supreme Court. If you do not go through the rigmarole for citizenship just because you're born here, you do not have citizenship. Now he's going to reaffirm and solidify it with the U.S. Senate. And no one's acting outside of Article 3 or Article 8 or any of that. They're following civil federal regulation rules. And I understand that, this puts a different position for you. But the bottom line is that you, just because you have a child here, it doesn't mean, just like someone told me that with my kid. I was like, well, wait a minute, all this military background we have and the sacrifices we made, and I had to go through rigmarole, and then I got a Social Security card the same day and left. If that's in the Constitution, nothing's absolute. And it's already been, honey, it's already
forgive me, Tony, no, hold on, listen. Forgive me for saying this. Actually, I make no apologies for saying this, but you've already proven that you don't know much about the Constitution, so I'm not going to take your thoughts on it very seriously.
It's not my thought, it's an act of Congress. Now they're waiting for a Senate. You had the last vote was the U.S. Supreme Court, and they don't automatically, if you have a child with a person that is not a citizen, and you better talk with your immigration lawyer for those who are naturalized as well. It does not mean anything. I'm just telling you that Trump is double checking his power.
Well, hold on, Cody, hold on, listen. I wanted to ask you a question. Can you give me, in regards to the 14th Amendment, can you give me the 2 exceptions in which a child born in the U.S. Is not guaranteed citizenship? Can you give me the 2 exceptions?
There is no 2 exception because that
there are. Connie, listen. Connie, listen. You're not.
It's a month of July.
I wanted to have a conversation with you, but you're not even on planet Earth. I'm asking you a question, and you're just saying words.
you're not familiar with the Constitution. I asked you a basic question, what's the Third Amendment? You didn't know what that was. And then when I asked you about the issue that pertains to this, I asked you about the 14th Amendment. I asked you what the exceptions would be, and you didn't know what those were. In fact, you said that there are no exceptions. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and I think it's high time, that Clubhouse starts calling people out when they're saying shit that they don't. Like, look, if you don't know this topic, just shut the fuck up. There's no crime in learning. You know what you could have done? You could have said, you know what, I don't know the answer to this. Maybe I'll go Google it, maybe I'll read a book. Can you point me to a reference where I can learn about this? There's so many things. I don't give a fuck. At this point, it's the mere fact. I'm gonna block that dumb bitch. That's what I'm gonna do. Listen, I just can't deal with it anymore. People are so fucking stupid. Like, all you have to do, if you're asked a question that you don't know the answer to, there is no fucking shame in saying, I don't know.
Maybe there's another idea from the poll, right? Like, yeah, if you come up here and ask me a question.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I asked her the same question about, and like, she went on to the same thing about, you know, there are people who are not here, not legally, and like, it's irrelevant. Like,
Wait, hold on, Necro, hold on. I want to talk to Christy for a second. Christy says, LMAO, smiley face, yet people wonder why I don't bother getting on stage. Listen, if you're worried that I would go at you like that, then that would mean that you believe that if I asked you a question that you didn't know the answer to, that you would try to just make up an answer. Now, in that case, I would be in the right for pointing out that you don't know what you're talking about. I don't think you would do that. I think you would be wise enough, if you were asked a question that you don't know the answer to, you would simply just say, I don't know the answer to that, or I'm not sure of my answer to that. Maybe I need to do some more research. Can you give me a moment? I'll come back to you. There's so many ways that you could handle that, honestly, and that woman chose to just talk. Like, she just decided to say words when she had no clue what was correct.
Yeah, people are confronted when you address things in a direct way and get to the truth of things. So that's you know, a little bit of a problem with people going to come up stage because you don't let them get away with that kind of stuff.
Well, here's the thing. I actually think she's a nice woman. I don't think she's a smart woman. And again, that might sound like I'm talking shit. All she had to do is just say, hey, this isn't my expertise. This isn't my area of expertise. Or
that ain't gonna happen, bro.
You know what else she could have done? She could have said, I believe this to be true, and I would have, if she would have said, I believe this to be true, I would have been much more gentle with her. But if you're gonna be on the stage arguing with me about the Constitution, I haven't read every fucking book. Shit, I got books on my bookshelf I haven't read. I got books that I've bought that I've never even opened. But there are certain things that I fucking do read. And there are certain things that I'm knowledgeable about. Pro wrestling is probably the most knowledgeable. Poker strategy, specifically for ring games, very knowledgeable about that. I can talk to you about films made in 1985, as you might be aware, time on. But I would never answer a question the way that she did, where if I was completely clueless on the topic, I'd just tap out. I'd be like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting on this subject. Abby actually sent me an article about, because believe it or not, I'm actually interested in what's the rationale, because a lot of people have, who have been critical of birthright citizenship, have pointed to the clause of, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and have suggested saying that illegal aliens are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and therefore their children are not. And I know that that's the thing that to me is like, that, you know, I've wondered essentially what the arguments for that have been.
We've moved to the next subject. So Abby, are you still there?
You don't confer the rights on the, you don't confer the rights on those who are born based on the status of their parents. That's the whole point of the 14th Amendment, right?
Well, with exception. So if their parents were, if the child was born to enemy forces that are occupying the U.S. territory, then that would be an exception where you would say, no, of course those are not citizens. The other example is children of foreign diplomats. If a foreign diplomat is here that's pregnant, they're here in official business, that child is not necessarily, that can be challenged. So,
Vice versa also, I think there was a challenge, or there was at some point a challenge on whether McCain could run for president because he wasn't born in America, but he was born under diplomatic status of America from his parents, so that's why.
Right, but he was born in Panama on a U.S. base, and a U.S. base is considered U.S. territory, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting though, it's like, I think also what would also be the other, exception, the children born would be, born to Native Americans, in their own territory, because technically they have their own laws, and so therefore, don't have the same jurisdiction.
I think there's two conversations that can happen around birthright citizenship. There's what does the law say, and then there's the question of, now that we have this evolving threat, that I would call it that, of people coming across the border in very large numbers, at least they did when Biden was in office, where we should always rethink, like, hey, when this was written, what was the logic behind it? What has changed? Should we evolve? And then we have a process for evolving that. The process isn't for the Supreme Court justices to change, to interpret it because of these evolved threats. The process would be for the Supreme Court to uphold what the Constitution says, and then kick it back to the legislature to say, hey, if you want to change this, we can understand that, but that's something that you'll have to do. And then the legislature can do it. And if you want to amend the Constitution, you need 2/3 of Congress, and you need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. That's what I think it would take in order to do it. I do think that there's an argument to be made that we should rethink this idea. And just me saying that would be highly offensive to some people that would say, well, then you're not within the spirit of the, of the Constitution. It's like, well, you're correct, the way it's written today, but I do believe that you can amend it, and I know that we have a process for doing that. And I think it's a worthwhile discussion. But I think if the Supreme Court oversteps their bounds and rules, I think that they would be handing a gift to Democrats if they rule to ban birthright citizenship.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I know that, like, it's something that divides America on the issue of birthright citizenship, because you have almost half of Americans who are against birthright citizenship in spite of what the 14th Amendment says.
Is that your general idea, or are you like looking at any stats on that or any polling data on that?
Yeah, so I can give you some polls that I looked for.
What you believe is that we're basically evenly divided between those 2 points of view.
Yeah, from what I've seen, like the polls, a lot of Americans are in favor, but a lot of them are also against it as well. But of course, the Supreme Court has consistently upheld birthright citizenship in spite of.
When has it ever been challenged before?
Well, you had to challenge, what was it, the case, so the first case that was brought forward was back in 1899, which was the one that where you had the Chinese laborer who was born in San Francisco to illegal aliens. And so his parents were not citizens, but he was born in the United States, and so it was essentially the perfect case to bring to the Supreme Court for the 14th Amendment. And what the court ruled in that case was that.
And that was Wong Kim Ark. If you guys are trying to play along at home, go ahead.
Yeah, and so basically, what the Supreme Court ruled was that the term that illegal aliens born on U.S. soil were children born to illegal aliens who are born on U.S. soil are American citizens, and
Okay. So yeah, I guess you could say that that's consistently in the sense, like, up until 1900, and, I wouldn't say that that means anything right now. And I'm not so sure that I agree with you, Roger, that they would decide on the basis of what kind of gifts they give to Democrats or not. I think that's the thing about the Supreme Court. Once they're there, they don't care. They know what their agenda is.
I think you might have missed my point. If they go against the Constitution because of their own political whims, which I don't think they will, I think that what that will do is scare the hell out of a lot of independents, and it'll sway them back into the arms of Democrats.
I'm definitely agreeing with that aspect, but I don't think they're going to be swayed by that. If they want to go in and do it, they're just going to do it. And I think that, they made an agenda known that they're playing out. So I would expect them to actually strip birthright citizenship and throw the whole thing into that chaos.
Well, I don't think there's an example of this Supreme Court doing things that are in direct contravention of the Constitution. In fact, I think like the fact that the ruling with Roe v. Wade, I think that was constitutionally sound. And so you might not like the results of that. I don't think this Supreme Court is going to make this ruling. I do believe that in their personal life they probably have their preferences, but the judicial branch, in my opinion, at that level of Supreme Court, there's some district courts that I have problem with, but at the Supreme Court, they do a pretty good job. I think there's very few mistakes, like massive mistakes. I think the passing of Roe v. Wade, I think the original ruling in Roe v. Wade was a problem, and I think Korematsu is probably the biggest failure that the Supreme Court's ever had. But I would say, 99 out of 100 times the Supreme Court gets it right in terms of constitutionality.
I think you're, optimistic about that. I'm usually playing that role, but I think in this case maybe I'm preparing myself for that fact, but you are probably right, and I hope that you are right. I think it would be a disastrous effect to have that ruling if it did. So anyway, I hope you're right.
It's interesting though. It's like it's one of the things I agree with Roger on. The Supreme Court, in spite of how we feel about Congress, the judicial system is the only system I'd say I have more confidence in the government than any other branch. But overall, I like how you gave an example of Roe versus Wade, because to me it's like I don't think, regardless of which side you stand on, like you can really argue that either of them, the Supreme Court overstepped their bounds. I mean, you can argue like Roe versus Wade that it was decided on weak grounding, which I guess it was, but given what most legal scholars, as far as I'm aware, understood it to be. But yeah, in general, it's like Roe versus Wade was something that, regardless of how you felt about the decision, it's kind of difficult to argue that the Supreme Court overstepped their bounds on either issue. So,
Are you done, Nick? Go ahead and finish it.
yeah, and so essentially, you know, the way I see it is just that you know, it's why to me, like I agree with Biden, thinking I thought progressives, like trying to pack the Supreme Court was one of the worst ways to, you know, essentially to win voters because, I mean, essentially, it was just going to be like another fight to continue to just scramble for the high ground, pretty much, because, you know, I mean, rightly has been pointed out is that if, you know, Democrats pack the Supreme Court, Republicans are going to pack when they take the power.
Becker, can you look at the rules of the House around like making your shares brief and you've been droning on.
Can I add on to the citizenship real quick? Look, I think where the wrinkle comes in is, and I do think the Constitution is very clear in the 14th Amendment. However, I can see the Supreme Court rule in favor of the Constitution, but when you draw into the exception of the people that crossed the border was an invasion. Now, Trump declared it an invasion at the southern border when he took office on January 20th, but would that then apply to the people prior to January 20th, 2025 that came in? And that's when the bulk of them came in, or even before that, going back years. So when does that exception of, you know, people in, you know, foreign entities or people invading the country, then having children here, then they would not be considered citizens? So I think there's a lot more details.
I think Trump declaring, you know, his opinion about something is not law. It's very persuasive with a lot of people, but you would have to first determine that, you know, that this is an occupying force. I don't think that it's as much as I find it distasteful that we had an administration that allowed you know, the people to come here. You know, if they all would have came in one day, we would have called that an invasion. But because they, you know, they come over, you know, a few here, a few there, 10 million over the course of that 4 years, it's a big fucking problem. And I think we should crack down on it. I think Trump's doing the right thing for addressing it. I think sometimes the way he addresses it, he's throwing red meat to the bigots that just don't want people here that's going to take their jobs. I do think there's some of that, but I think you're making a good point, Joe. If they can get a court to rule that this is an invasion, then, you know, then maybe, but I think they would have to have that established in order for the Supreme Court to have anything to grasp onto, because when I look at the 14th Amendment, to me, this seems like the easiest decision ever.
Both well said, because it is really based on that. Joe is absolutely right. You know, if it is in fact an invading force, then this doesn't fall into the exception. That's simple. And I also agree with your response.
Are you talking about the, in regards to the Alien Enemies Act?
No, we're talking about the 14th Amendment, the exceptions if the 14th Amendment does not apply to children born of an occupying enemy force.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wondered because I know the Alien Enemies Act was...
So it's basically as if the soldiers, in addition to fighting, are fucking and having children.
Yeah, or they just have their wives with them, like, right.
Yeah, that's very common in war that they'll rape the women as they invade, going back hundreds of years.
Yeah, that is not used as a way to produce children. It's used as a way to enslave people as part of the enslavement process. It's the dehumanizing process of the enemy. It's not about having children. It's exactly the opposite.
Yeah, well, yeah, I just wondered because about the Alien Enemies Act, essentially there's a suspension due process, basically, and I wasn't sure if that's really what was being applied.
But hey, yeah, if they can be legally declared an invading force, then you might have a legal case.
Yeah, well, I guess we don't really have who defines it when it does. Trump signed an executive order. Will that, you know, on January 20th, you know, when would that apply or however? I mean, these are the details that will be argued. So it'll be interesting. I do not think, I'm against, and what your belief is, Daniel, I do not think the Supreme Court will rule against the plain language of the 14th Amendment. It's pretty clear.
Yeah, I'm unusually negative tonight, actually, because of the other day, and I do agree with you all. You are very lucky.
You know what I think is going to happen here, Daniel? I think that Trump likes to play this stuff up because his base, the donor base, the ones that he really counts on, he needs to give them the red meat. And I think that by him taking this position, even if it gets defeated in the Supreme Court, he could then look at his base and go, hey, look, guys, I tried.
Right, you're right.
It's for moving the Overton window. So in facing defeat, there'll be more people then that will support preventing, illegals coming here and having children, and then that children being automatically citizens. So it's adding to future political capital. Hopefully, that's the goal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's interesting though. It's like, it's one of those things. I definitely think even Trump's own judges would rule against him on this issue. Just because I don't know, it's like if they had the opportunity to go against him, I don't see why they would have delayed it in their previous one where they ruled about the district courts. I can't remember the exact ruling, but they, as regards to his birthright citizenship, but.
Well, we solved everything then.
I wonder if there'd be like a legislative, even if the birthright thing gets shut down, if there'd be some legislative sleight of hand they could do where they'd say like, okay, if you don't have status, you don't have an issued visa, then you're considered like a diplomatic kind of, you're diplomatically still part of your country. We're gonna have this sort of quasi-diplomatic status for you. Because the children of diplomats, for instance, are not, so you could like smuggle them into one of the exceptions under the 14th Amendment.
What does that mean? Are you
The point is just legislatively reclassify people so that then they would no longer qualify for birthright citizenship.
Right. So people who are born in America would not be considered citizens and
No. If you have status, if you have legal status, like you have a visa issue or or obviously if you're a citizen already, then of course your children are citizens. It's for the illegals. You would reclassify illegal people under one of the categories where already under the 14th Amendment their children
so like
don't.
if somebody had a green card, somebody had a legit green card by what you're saying, then the children would be American citizens.
Yeah. And furthermore, I mean, I would go further and say one of the conditions of visas, depending on the, basically you should decide maybe there are people you want here, but you don't want their kids permanently here. You want them temporarily, so then you would say like, okay, it's illegal for you to give, even though you have status as a worker or temporary person in the country, it would be illegal to give, but like you have to report your whatever pregnancy status, and then once you reach 6 months pregnant, you have to leave the country.
Sure, I hate to interrupt you, I just wanted to know if you get the irony that if you saw a scene in a movie about 1984 that had the statement you just said, it would look perfectly in sync with that world, right?
I don't think so. I think 1984, I think it would be distorted. Immigration was not a theme of 1984.
Sure. No, not immigration, but any condition in which some sort of governmental body of any kind, anywhere on the planet friggin' Earth, that people would have to report into about whether they're allowed, while they're in a period of time in a certain place, to have children or not, and have to report that. That is a pretty significant thing you're suggesting.
It's not if if there's implications to someone's permanent attachment to a country, or the permanent obligations that the people of that country have to you or your offspring. You know, then there's a sort of a social contract. It becomes the government's business once you become a permanent liability for that government.
Liability. So you think a citizen is more of a liability than an asset?
It's really, whatever it is, it's both an asset and a liability potentially, but then it's up to that government. It's a responsibility either way, as soon as the person has status.
Isn't it good for the country?
Especially if a person has lifelong status.
Okay.
And there's an interest that government or that people group, that nation has in that person and in that person's offspring.
Sure, and that offspring is also an asset, maybe generally.
You might see them as, I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, assets, if you're talking about people in terms of assets, this is like slavery type of.
No, it's exact opposite, because you talked about them as liability, in which the state has to take.
It could be a liability. The people
Right,
could be a liability.
It could be, but the question economically, statistically, mathematically, on which survival in life actually matters in the question that we're asking, do generally people contribute more to an economy than they consume, political or otherwise, or do they?
That's a very good point that you raised, Daniel, because some people contribute more than other people, and sometimes you can statistically predict that even pre-conception.
Okay, so we at least agree it's an open question, whether on a prorated basis, do people contribute more than they consume is an open question. If it does turn out that they tend to, on mass scale, be more of a contributory force to an economy than a sucking one out of it.
No, we're not talking about averages. If we can,
Not averages.
determine for a specific if you can make a statistical prediction based on, let's say, demographic details about how educated are their parents, what is the health of the parents, what are the extended family networks of the parents,
certain kinds of people.
what are the income levels of the parents,
okay,
the education, all these things.
And
That will help you predict the factors that the person's going to bring to the economy and also to the social cohesion of the society.
Got it, okay. So I just want to see if I'm understanding you, not arguing with you, is basically what you're saying is, yeah, you know, people contribute and consume, but some people contribute more than others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to use your framing, yes.
Okay. So what do we do about that? We then set up to figure out who the contributors are and who the consumers are, and keep out the consumers and keep the contributors. Is that basically the best approach for you?
I mean, that's very oversimplified, but yeah, generally you're going to have better results for your society long term if you take that basic approach.
And you'd agree it's a theory, right?
Yeah, let's say that's my theory, yeah.
Okay, and probably because human life depends on the standards of living, at least if we don't do that dramatic, we ought to test these theories, right? And I would ask.
I think we can look at that. We have an incredible amount of data to be able to make these inferences already. We have mountains. We have overwhelming data to make these kind of statistically definitive statements.
Okay. And it seems those definitive statements for you is get out the people that are the suckers and keep the producers.
I mean, this is a policy proposal that, you know, I would probably support. That would then take a political position on it. But yeah, I would rather have people in my nation, and I would rather invite people to you know, produce new citizens for my nation who are going to benefit me and my children and my grandchildren long term. Yeah.
Okay. So you got two ways to accomplish what you're talking about. You're either going to find the ones that are the ones to keep and the ones to be gotten rid of or whatever way you can do that, or you can actually change the conditions that actually produce those results in the first place. Which is actually.
You're right, yeah, you have two mechanisms there, yeah, sure.
You do, and as a guy who look at my profile, I spend most of my work in the world of change. I can tell you that we are far more capable of changing conditions very rapidly than we are changing people. And especially picking out who the good guys and the bad guys are, even though we all grew up with the good guys and the bad guys. And then every movie we ever saw was about it. I'm just saying.
I think changing people is that's the most effective thing long term.
Good luck if you can do it.
Well, I mean, it can be done, yeah.
Okay.
It's the people who just give up. It's like we saw the last administration that, oh, let's just open the border. Oh, there's nothing we can do. Or they're like, it's not happening. Oh, it's happening, but it's a good thing. Oh, well, yeah, it happened, but now there's nothing you can do about it. Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from you. Just, well, now it's up to us to just, there's nothing we can do except now just make it as good as possible for all these new people that have come in.
I don't know anybody in the real life or on this app would ever look at me as a guy who goes, hey, there's nothing we can do. I'm exactly the opposite. I'm all about getting shit done. So that would be really weird somehow that came across to you. I'm simply saying that the way that I found effectively to make more rapid change is not to try to change people, but to change conditions that people can exercise choice in that allows them to get more done, because then I can just trust them to get done what they need to get done and not try to change them. That's just
I'm looking long term.
I'm not,
and I really think you gotta look at people. In order if you're thinking long term, you have to look at the
it's great that you have a different way. I'm not telling you to go my way or anything. I wasn't trying to suggest mine is better or anything. I was just identifying we're approaching it from different points of view. I wasn't trying to say yours is wrong.
Mine is better.
I think you should think so.
I mean, I would like
it takes 1,000 flowers blooming if you're really after what you're really after. Just remember that.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I think it's interesting. I mean, I will say, Joe, that your position sounds more, I guess I could say more sensible than a lot of people I talk to who are MAGA. So that I will give you
me? I'm just talking. I didn't say anything, but.
Well, I mean, I believe you're saying that the productivity of someone.
No, that was double agent. I just want to clear my name. That wasn't me talking.
Yeah, that was double talk. Double of me talking.
Okay.
But go ahead and direct it at him. Just want to be clear with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Early?
Yeah, excuse me if I'm trying to do two things at once, so I apologize.
I don't want to steal double agent's glory for making a good point.
About selecting who's the people who should be here and the people who shouldn't as an effective way to address it.
Well, we kind of do with immigration already. You know, yeah, I do believe we should have a net positive gain on people that we let into our country. Yes.
I mean, I guess really my question to you, Daniel, is like, does any country, I mean, that has sovereignty, don't they have an election about who comes into their country?
Oh yeah, no question about it. I live in Canada that's had an excellent immigration program. Net positive for decades, and very merit-based. I mean, it mostly works. I'm sure we got lots of complaints about it, but
been strained, very much so.
Aren't your immigrants all like,
Yeah,
just
say
like
more
they're
about
coming
being
into universities?
Say again?
Say more about strained.
Well, the whole world is, I look at it from, a lens every day that I professionally look at, by the way, from more of a global reckoning that's happening with migration on a scale just because of the size of the population of the planet, that's basically descending on us. And I think absolutely, like, just as I think Canada's mostly done a good job of, and I think America has failed to do, is create an immigration system that I believe recognizes that on a per capita basis, and I don't think you're ever going to be effective at deciding who is and who isn't, even though you can do merit-based stuff, but the economy is based on people. People are the assets. Like, if you think the first thing you think about people and having more people is that they're more of a burden on the state, I mean, then of course it makes sense you want to keep some people out. But I haven't seen in a few hundred years of analysis any migration in human history that people weren't opposed to, and yet not too long after made that area that they came to after they got over the cultural upheaval led to a growth in the economy. I'm happy to go through that. I've had this conversation with historians as well, for hundreds of hours on this topic. People en masse, yes, you can say certain categories, certain cultures, certain this, and all of this, gradation of who's a good person, who's not, who belongs, who doesn't. I think merit is great. Like, who adds value? Fantastic, right? What are they bringing with them? Certainly, you want to have an education system where you invite people to American universities. You want to make an immediate path to citizenship. They're learning in your country at their most formative time. They're developing relationships, especially in this kind of economy in the 21st century, right? Where they're building business. Where do you think the Googles and all that stuff came from? Like, America's innovation, not its military power, has been its secret sauce. And all that international stuff, as if it's like taken from this limited pie that was like invested and leveraged around the world for, some wrong things, some right things, whatever it is. America is like the world power by the economic currency, and it ought to still remain that as innovation. And when you create all these borders and walls to this point, you create people being afraid to come to the country. You ought to be pro-people. You ought to be pro-people first, not just American people. America itself should just be pro-people first. And then you start to figure out how to put the boundaries around that.
So Daniel, are you done your thought?
Yes, I am done my TED Talk.
Okay, thank you. Look, I think the part you're missing with the immigration, let's just take during Biden's term, roughly 35 to 40% of the immigration that occurred was through asylum seekers. So we had nearly, 10 million people that came across our southern border, and 4 million of them were just claiming asylum. They were going around our rules we already have in place of how much immigration we're allowed to take in on a given yearly time frame. And it's overburdening our system as it is.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. First of all, Joe, I wholeheartedly agree with you. You have an immigration problem and everything you just described. My thing is about the response to it. First of all, whether you and I agreed or not, it doesn't matter if we do. Because here we are right now in 2025. But we might not agree with the fact that there was an attempt to actually pass legislation that would actually have some kind of fix on immigration that was bipartisan, which Trump tore down.
Yeah, pause. Can I pause for a second?
Well, let me just respond to that real quick. And then, look, Daniel, Trump's been able to successfully stop lowest numbers ever of border crossers occurring without any additional legislation.
We would not disagree with that, but the legislation that was there would have fixed a problem
that I believe you will see in a few months, that the way in which he's dealing with it without that piece of legislation is going to lead to a far less secure situation for the United States.
Other than speaking in generalities, can you explain how? Go ahead, Double H.
Yeah. So Joe brought up this point. Was it 10 million people just during the Biden thing of applying for asylum?
Roughly, it could have been more. I mean, these numbers aren't
Let's
precise.
get the real numbers. Let's get the real numbers.
Let me build on that. Let me just build on that. So 10 million people, that's a quarter of the population of Canada, then requesting asylum in the U.S., and your response was, oh, well, the Democrats tried to pass the bill and it didn't go through, and
That's actually not the, that's actually.
right, and let me just say quickly, Daniel, and I'm in Vancouver right now, I'm a Canadian citizen.
Me too.
And I immigrated, by the way, I immigrated legally to Canada.
Thank you.
So,
We love
thank you, I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful I was able to go through a legal process to get, but I knew the whole time, if I screwed something up, if I did something wrong, I would no longer be welcome in Canada.
Of course.
And I knew, anyone who's an illegal, what happens to, if there were 10 million illegals and can't get the we don't tolerate illegal immigration in Canada. We remove those people. And the idea that, like, we need to now hand wave and then, but the U.S., they just have to,
Look, I know
have to, like, find accommodation for these people is ridiculous.
I know it's fun for you to extreme what I said in order to, have fun with that. But what I was saying to Joe was, whether we agreed on where we are right now, I think one of the weaknesses of what's being done right now, that even though it's responding to bringing down the numbers of immigration, is not helping the American economy because it's built on a false idea that there's a limited amount of people it can support.
I don't think anyone's made that point, Daniel.
It seems that
Immigration isn't immigration's not driving our GDP, is the point you're making.
Okay, we'll see, Joe.
Well, I mean,
Actually, it will be, or it's going to be.
there's actually a real surplus of, from people who are on visas. I think there was a surplus, that's brought into government revenue.
Yeah, but comparing it to like businesses, this is what drives our GDP. A lot of energy, tech, these things are driving our GDP.
I'm sure you'd agree.
It's not illegal immigration.
I'm sure you'd agree, Joe, that a big part of the GDP is now like service economy, even part of the production economy that's very service related, certain kinds of technology, right?
So what happens to low wage?
Can I ask my question, Double, can I get to finish my question for Joe, please? One at a time. So most of America's GDP now is service related and IP related. Okay? That's the intelligence economy, basically. America has been a haven for the world's best up to now. There are people now afraid to come to America even to visit it. That's a cultural thing, right? Wouldn't you agree? Part of America's power is its cultural power all this time? All this.
If you ask me the question, look, the point you're trying to make is that you're kind of conflating that the illegal immigrants are coming here and getting tech jobs, because that's not the facts. So.
No, I'm even talking about the fact that
legal immigration.
Come to America to visit, just to visit.
You're making the argument for Double H's earlier point that America should invite in the people that would add to our society and be able to take those tech jobs rather than.
That's not happening.
Sure it is. What are you talking about? Look, I mean, H-1B visa.
It definitely is happening. There's, a lot of my girlfriends are on H-1B.
Sure, man, but like what's happening right now is a climate and a temperature where people don't want to come to America. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I don't think you're hearing it.
As in what? In the last?
I'm telling you, like, you're here in Vancouver, Devil, so, I mean, I'm just gonna tell you can see it anecdotally, but 35 or 40% down on tourism just from Canada to America.
You have all of this trade war
Yeah,
stuff.
America's gonna be fine without the Canadian tourists. I know people love to virtue signal and, oh, I'm not gonna
It's
spend my
not
money
virtue signal,
because.
there's an actual economic impact, like, I don't care about the virtue signal thing, I'm just saying, I'm talking about this is what I'm saying, it's about people, the economy is based on people.
I mean,
It's not about
my portfolio is at an all-time high.
Well, that's great that it's doing it for you, and that's fine that that's what you are interested in. I'm just talking about the facts of the numbers.
Yeah.
That's great, but I'm talking about the numbers generally is what we're talking about here. And the numbers are down for America, and students who are used to look to come to America are now looking to other countries.
So how much does that have to do with?
Intelligent students they're begging to come into America. Everywhere I travel in the world, people would love to go to, I mean, not every country, some countries people just don't like to.
If you think that the reputation of America in the last 6 or 7 months hasn't changed, that would be news to me, and I give, I all over the world.
Everyone in the world wants to come to America. It's just people,
Yeah.
cushy first world, like Europeans and some Canadians and whatever, who are overprivileged anyway, who are not ambitious at all. Those people are not interested in coming to America. But people who are
So y'all are arguing 2 points.
hardworking who are at the top of their game, or they're just ambitious people from anywhere in the world, those people definitely want to come to America. I get marriage proposals weekly from girls who want green cards.
There are people who love America, want to come to America, and are afraid right now to come to America.
Okay, hold on. Y'all are arguing 2 different points. So double agents talking about people that want employment opportunity to come to America, and Daniel, you're arguing tourism, people wanting to visit America.
Not just tourism, I'm talking about tourism, students, businesses, right across the board, everything. The entire reputation right now of America is looking like a tyrannical.
No, to be fair, if we just look at it like, it would probably be people of left-leaning persuasion that don't want to come, or if you look, for...
Yeah, left wing is easy for sure, but it's not only left wing. I would totally agree with you.
So now with tourism,
it's not only left
so
wing.
how much do you think the downturn in tourism has to do with some of our cities here in lawless chaos occurring?
May I ask you this? If what you're saying was central focus, let's take something more important economically than tourism itself, which is a massive sell-off going on in Arizona and in Florida. Canadian snowbirds, you know that term, like they spend 6 months of the year, right? Those guys are
selling when they come down here.
This is a drop in the bucket. Like, you're staring at your own navel, thinking that Canada's impact on their boycott, boycott of Canadian.
I don't know what you're in the
has
camp.
no real
Why
impact.
have to keep shutting me down?
I'm just telling you, it's like, so Canadians do this and they're just
He's
so.
asked me a question. You don't need to interrupt me. I know you know you're right about everything, but Joe asked me a question, right? So I'm just giving you indicators behind the, not only tourism, people owning real estate, they're selling off that real estate. I know people, yes, in Europe who probably, because they come from academia, are probably left. Most academia in the world is left. And then, you know, they're afraid to come and all of that. Students are afraid to come. I have conversations with people all over the world who have concern about coming to America. We're highly ambitious and actually doing big shit in the world. And are saying, you know, maybe for a while I'll still steer clear of it. I just don't think that's a good thing.
All of India wants to come to the United States, all of China, all of Persia, you know, anyone intelligent in the Middle East who isn't just some, you know, prince or something. Anyone in North Africa or all across Africa, all of Africa wants to come to the United States. You name it, yeah. Norwegians, Europe, you know, they're all millionaires by birth anyway. They're not so keen, and then they can feel good being like, oh, I'll never go to America. Look at Trump is so evil. You know, when it was Obama, it was okay, but now it's Trump, so I'm never going.
may I ask you one question, whether you're aware that some of those African countries presently now face a $15,000 deposit to be able to just come to the United States?
Yeah, and that's probably generally a good thing. And honestly, a lot, I have, some of those countries I think are really good places to bring, especially the elites from. And I can tell you, we made a big mistake with certain countries in East Africa by letting way too many people in who hate America. And their children absolutely hate America and want to undermine and destroy the country.
And you don't think that does anything to America's reputation in terms of, like, putting fear out there to cause that $15,000 barrier just to come to the country?
It sounds like you want to go hire people. They're happy to pay it. They're happy to come up with the money. If they even get the opportunity to come, yes.
We've also got stricter immigration policies, travel bans, heightened enforcement created through fear. Like, there's all kinds of problems under the Trump administration right now. Why people don't want to come to the U.S. It's not just one reason.
And it's intense.
There are plenty of people. Anyone who's at the top of their game, they want to come.
Entrepreneurs.
Anyone who actually wants to make money and isn't just like a peasant. Like, yeah, they want to go to the U.S.
You're thinking of like aspiring entrepreneurs who want to work in the tech business or something. Silicon Valley.
If you want to be a high-end surgeon, if you want to be, if you want to start a tech company, if you want to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you're not going to move to Canada. You're not going to move to France. There's all these places you're not going to move to. You're going to move to the United States if you're entrepreneurial.
Canada is a much better investment right now.
Canada is good for some people. It's good for some people, but most of the immigrants I know, the young students and so forth, they're like, yeah, I'm here in Canada.
Hold on, double. I have to interrupt. Hold on. I have to interrupt. It's mod privilege here. I've got a poll that I would love for you guys to all respond to. Thank you.
30 and 100% forgive. So I just want to say, as an American, I'm the guy who's hard, and one of the things that I've been told is that Canada is the place where I can have the best place to find jobs right now.
And what field are you in?
I actually just want to say, like, I do business with multiple countries right now. I operate in multiple jurisdictions. I look, as part of my criteria where I don't want to do business, is places where I see political instability. I do not see more stability now than I did see 6 months ago. I see green risks all over the place that put doubt into basic facts and truth, and see manipulation that looks exactly like every authoritarian government I've ever seen in human history. That does not make for economic. It is very robust. It is very robust. I think it will be resilient. Doesn't mean that the reality of what I said can also be true, right? And I'm betting that it will be. Like, I operate a non-profit, I operate a for-profit in the United States. Like, I love America, and I want it to be successful in every way. I just think that right now, what we have is not stable. That's all. It's not a big deal for me to say that.
David, what do you think of my double? Hold on. David, what do you think of my concern? My concern that MAGA's biggest threat to the U.S. is that they're anti-capitalist.
I think what you're bringing up is one of the most important. Was that to me? No?
Yeah, that was to David. That was to Daniel.
Oh, yeah. I think you're bringing up the most important question, because listening outside of somebody's got off their mute. Can you go on your mic there, Vesper?
Sure.
Thanks. No?
I think it's Terry.
Somebody come off the mic there. Okay, very good. I think you're bringing up the most important question, because most of the solutions that are out there to implement are based out of entrepreneurial culture, not out of labor or government culture. And I really mean that. Like an average, ordinary human being in 2025, I believe has more realistic power to implement a good idea than a 1%er did of 20 years ago. That's after the turn of the century. The entrepreneurial organizational culture, like the flourishing of multiple myriad ways of capital raising that have emerged in the last 15 years, and let's face it, when you can generate ways to actually form new capital, which is part of what I do, that actually moves projects forward, moves initiatives forward. What is it that you do, like in traditional government or businesses, you exist to do that? You have, I don't know, like entire institutions types that didn't exist 20 years ago, a decentralized, autonomous organization. It's not a nonprofit, it's not a for-profit. People make decisions on it, but they don't own it. Like, who thinks of this shit? And it's like, I'm headed on a trip as it is for 10 days in Ghana with a whole like culture of thousands of young entrepreneurs in Ghana, not all technologically aligned, some of them are, but all about just how do they make jobs for themselves. Not how do they look for jobs. That's a predominant thing. That doesn't mean they're not going to work for each other and all that kind of stuff, right? It's not like one size fits all. But there's this wave happening. I don't see it anywhere in the news. Let me tell you something you don't see in the news, but tells me this, okay? Last week, a group of countries and a project called TreeGens, which is led by a guy who is the Guinness World Book record holder for the most amount of trees planted by a single individual in 24 hours. His name is Jimmy Culling. He's a wonder. And they set out to do 1 billion trees about a week ago on one day to get that record, and they failed. They only got 787 million in 24 hours. That was their failure. But more important than that is 29 plus million people were involved in that effort. All in mobile phones.
Things have been a huge failure too, right?
No, please hear this, Messi. In 24 hours, 29 million people participated in something, anything. Just understand.
They created a forest desert. They've actually done studies on it.
No. You're not hearing the news.
Yeah, no, I get the entrepreneurs.
No, you're not hearing the
people
news.
Motivated together, work together.
You're not hearing the news.
Guys, hold on.
Let me finish.
No, everyone's gonna hold on because you guys are violating rules. So now I'm gonna have to intervene and I'm gonna have to read the rules of the room to you guys. So the rules of the room are, number 1, no threats of violence. Number 2, no doxing. So far, you guys have done pretty good. We've only had one person threaten anybody, and that was somebody in the chat that threatened me. I dealt with that. No doxing. We're doing pretty good. Staying on topic. We're doing okay. Keep your shares brief. I think you guys are doing a terrible job at number 4. Do not interrupt speakers, especially mods. I think you guys were doing a good job, but now you're getting a little sloppy with that. Mods may interject when appropriate. That's what I'm doing right now. The N-word is forbidden on stage and in chat. Don't spam the chat. You guys are doing well on those things. Do not bring drama here from other rooms. You guys are doing okay with that. And English only, please. And I get questions about, well, why do you say English only? That's racist. No, it's not. It's a language. It has nothing to do with race. Very little to do. The reason English only is a rule here is because I only speak English, and so therefore I can't properly moderate what I don't understand that you're saying. And so we're all just going to use one common language. If you don't speak English, if you don't write in English, this is probably not the right room for you. Anyways, those are the rules of the road. I think the 2 rules that I need to point out to this group at this time is keeping your shares short and not interrupting. But let's go back to Daniel. With the spirit of all those rules in mind, let's get the conversation moving.
Yeah, I'll keep it very brief. When in human history does anybody know of any army of 30 million people that did anything in 24 hours? That's my point. Those people are expressing something they have the capability to do to organize that they have never had before. We could argue whether their time was used appropriately for those 24 hours, Messi, or not. That's fine. But that,
Okay, well, like, I heard 50 million people are gonna go to work tomorrow. You could say it's not used appropriately.
okay, you said those people believe they did something together, not just going off to work. They believe they did
Well,
something
believe
Well, that's
but
well,
that's
belief
all it
is.
is.
Sure, okay, if you think that's all that is, but I think actually that's what capital is made from, is agreement, and it's what people believe in their values and what they share together and identify together that actually makes power in the world.
Oh, Roger, can I address the moderator? Just a second, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead, what's up?
Oh, Abdallah is a Hollywood supporter. I just want to get any questions for him.
No, that would take us off topic, but thank you,
Let's bring it up.
that would take us off topic. But if we swing around there, then we swing around there. Look, if we're gonna get off topic, I'd be more interested in, Vesper, who, in his bio says utilitarian Gnostic atheist. I would have to imagine that this is the mother lode of stupidity, but I don't want to change the subject.
That's not changing the subject.
Yeah, Daniel, I would just say that 34 million people ruined the fucking environment. It's terrible what they did, and they should repent. Because, like I said, they've done studies where they literally walk through the forests where they plant all the same fucking trees, and then nothing lives there. I mean, none of they're like, wow, it's so quiet in here. There's like no birds, no squirrels, no animals. Like, it's the fucking desert. But thank you to those people for organizing as usual.
I thought there was a question about whether MAGA was anti-capitalist or not. I wonder what.
Hold on. There's no question about it. They are absolutely 100% anti-capitalist. Trump is a huge economic interventionist. He doesn't believe in capitalism. His supporters don't believe in capitalism. In fact, they believe in nationalism and populism, and all of those things. Nationalism is collectivism, right? Populism is demagoguery, and at the end of the day, the economic interventionism is in complete contravention of capitalism. But go ahead.
No, all right.
Yeah, I'm hearing it described as like neo-feudalist, techno-feudalism, kind of neo-reactionary kind of movement. With people like Peter Thiel, this whole Dark Enlightenment movement.
That's Peter
Thiel, yeah.
I think it's the mostly part that really counts, not what the all is. I think mostly what Roger's saying is fun, right? And I think where power is shifting is in the entrepreneurial culture around the world. That's all there is to it. And I think that's, Mega's going to come up against that reality. That's where power is being made on. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. No, there's other entrepreneurial startup destinations for people like
Hold on.
Singapore, Berlin, and Paris.
Vesper. If you were to take Singapore, if you were to take the UK, if you were to take Israel, if you were to take all of these places and add all of their investment dollars, I can give you a 12-mile stretch of Menlo Park and Palo Alto, Mountain View, that has more investment dollars in a 12-mile radius than all of those countries combined.
But that doesn't necessarily, you're right, Roger, but that doesn't necessarily mean that America can't blow that, too,
Of course they could. Look, here's the real issue, right? If you're going to be an economic interventionist, the question would be, why would we invest here? I think things like tariffs, right? Things like tariffs, the idea of picking and choosing winners, the only people that like this are the ones that were chosen to be winners, but it's all completely anti-capitalist. The entire thing is anti-capitalist. And that's the thing that I think is the most dangerous and needs to be pointed out, is that these folks, first of all, most of the people that support Trump, they're the people that helped to get him elected, the people that really helped to get him elected, they're not interested in old Republican values. The idea of Christian values. Like my Christian Republican friends, they don't like Trump. They may have voted for him because they dislike Harris more. That could be true. But they don't see him as a good guy. They don't. The capitalists in the circles that I swim in, they don't see any value in this guy. What he's done is he's completely rewritten the book, and now you have two parties in this country, the only two major parties, right, the only electable parties, that are both anti-capitalist. And it would be crazy for us to throw shade on Democrats for their economic interventionism, and then not be willing to do it when the Republicans are doing it. Where is the alternative? Where are the free market zealots? Where are the people that believe in individual rights, that believe markets should be free? They come up with these terms. Democrats, talk about markets should be fair. We want fair trade, not free trade. And then you want protectionist policies. If you're protecting a business, let's think about the definition of protecting a business, right? If you're protecting an industry, let's say the steel industry. The steel industry is no longer beholden to please the customers. They're only beholden to please the government and the people that are giving them this favor and protecting them. If you believe at all that the free market has set people free, then you should absolutely reject the economic policies of Donald Trump. That doesn't mean you should run into the arms of those fucking socialists on the other side. But economic fascism and socialism should not be the only fucking choices. And I would just say that for those of you that think one is better than the other, for those of you that are going around saying that you're pro-tariff because the leader of your party said that it's a good thing, go pick up the book, man. I'll mail you one. If you want to understand economics, I'll send you a copy. Anybody back channels me, I will send you a copy of Henry Hazlitt, Economics in One Lesson. That's a good starting point. After you've gotten through that, you'll probably have more questions. I've got additional reading material for you. But start with that. Understand why the free market is such a beautiful thing. You guys have accepted now that both major parties offer you no alternative for free market capitalism. And I think that that's the worst development in my lifetime in U.S. politics.
Can I respond? Get in the queue to respond?
Why don't you respond now?
Roger, I think I at least was indoctrinated into your way of thinking. My university days, I was almost, I considered myself a libertarian. I was actually president of a couple of the libertarian clubs at my university. But I think, so there was this consensus, it's even part of the neoliberal consensus, is the idea that, free markets are, we need to make goods flow with as little barriers as possible between nations. There was less consensus around the movement of labor, which, like, the extreme libertarians are open border libertarians, because they just see everything. Like, they just see everyone as individuated economic agents with no real ties or loyalties or dependencies or whatever to their nations, and to the extent that maybe those things do, they just figure, well, the free market will sort it out. And that never became the world we live in. You could argue whether or not that's the world we should live in. But I think we lived in some hybrid version where we had this movement of as little barriers, just...
Well, we do live in a hybrid version. We do.
Right.
I'll acknowledge that. But the problem is it's getting worse.
because right now we have $37 trillion worth of debt. We have a 2-year annual budget shortfall of $2 trillion. Every year, $2 trillion. It's crazy. And you guys have accepted this, and then when you look to the parties of like, what's your solution? They're both running away from free market capitalism, and they're running into their own tyrannical forms of economic policy. And we should be afraid of those things. We should absolutely reject these things. And I think the way that you reject them is you have to point to, well, when was the U.S. at its best? And when you start thinking, hold on. When you think about when the U.S. was at its best, you could define that in a few ways. I would first look, what was the greatest time of economic expansion in the history of the United States? And it was from 1870 to 1900. So then I say, oh, well, what was going on at that time that made things so prosperous? And by the way, during that 30-year period, there was booms and busts during that, because that's what a free market allows for, is the booms and busts. The best part, the most glorious part of that is the fact that you have the booms. When you put your hand on the scale, you don't quite get the booms. And so when you look at that, deregulation was the key to why 1870 to 1900 was the biggest expansion, not only in U.S. history, in world history. So go ahead.
Well, yeah, you could be right. I need to look more. I mean, I believe that period of time is called the Gilded Age. And I think
you could call it the Gilded Age. I would call it, fucking America, fuck yeah. And what we need is we need a Gilded Age 2.0.
You could be right, and I think we're heading there one way or another. I think there's certain technologies that will allow, holders of capital to be, gilded once again. And maybe there's nothing the governments can do about it. But, I just wanted to say, Roger, I think the thing that's back to what should the U.S. be doing now? It's one thing, with the neoliberal consensus, it only works if every country agrees to the consensus. I think what we had in the last 40 plus years even was certain countries being preferenced, like if you were considered a developing nation, then you got all kinds of, you can protect your economy in all these ways. You can run mercantilist games where you're trying to accumulate as much manufacturing capacity and as much capital into your economy while kind of draining that capacity from other countries as possible. It just did, mercantilism, the capitalists wanted to break down mercantilism because it's the most efficient thing and it's the best, it's economically most efficient, at least on paper, but it's not the best thing for a nation, as a nation, as let's say, a government or whatever, as a king wants to run a mercantilist game to accumulate as much power into the hands of the nation and the king as possible. And that's what China's been doing to us. And you can't just run a free market game against them because the mercantilists will win. Everyone has to play by the same rule so that the capitalists win. And that's kind of what we've seen it swing the other way, where the U.S. is now being more defensive, at least, against these games that others were playing. And I think we were forced into it, Roger.
Yeah, so look, Mojo, I got to ask you a question though. If the greatest period of time, and I don't disagree, between 1870 and 1900 economically for America, that was prior to the progressive income tax being introduced. And I believe nearly half of the money that the U.S. government raised was through indirect taxation by way of tariffs. So why would you be against the concept of tariffs, but still in favor of thinking we have free markets today when we have a progressive income tax put in place, and we have had it for 100 years? And why wouldn't you think that the progressive income tax is the reason we have so many issues, and it's not so much, reintroduction of tariffs?
It's a great question, and it's got a very simple answer. You're right. Excise taxes and tariffs is how the country was funded in the early days. Once
once the progressives took over and they created the Federal Reserve, they passed the 16th Amendment, they started taxing income, we created a huge distortion and a huge transfer of wealth. The problem with tariffs today, did you mean to interrupt me, Double, or?
I'm sorry, I dropped my phone, my plug.
Okay, got it. The problem with tariffs today is that you're putting tariffs on top of the progressive income tax. Now, if you wanted to propose to me, hey, we think that we could fund the country better with tariffs, I would actually argue that there's more efficient ways of doing that. If you were to replace the income tax, if you could shut down the Federal Reserve, if you could repeal the 16th Amendment, abolish the IRS, get rid of the income tax, we could talk about tariffs. We could talk about it. I would still have a problem with it in the fact that it does create distortions in the market. And what I would recommend as an evolution of how to fund government would be through lotteries and usage taxes. And if you really had a shortfall and you wanted to institute something, that was a little bit more predictable, you can go ahead and you can institute a federal income or a federal sales tax. This bill's been floating around. You're probably familiar with the fair tax. You can go look at it at www.fairtax.org. It'll explain what it would do is it would replace the Social Security tax, the Medicare tax, and the federal income tax with one sweeping federal sales tax. I think that would be cool in the sense that it would give you more control because you have more control over what you spend. Right? Right now, what they do is they take 1.45% for Medicare off of your check. They also take that from your employer. They take 6.25% for Social Security tax. They also you'll bill your employer for that. If you have a high income, the Medicare tax, there's an additional 0.9% that you have to pay. And then we have the brackets on your income. All of these things are super punitive, and if you really wanted to solve a lot of these problems that we have, like for example, illegal immigration. Imagine this: if the illegal immigration problem would have a lot less negative externalities if we had a national sales tax, because the people that are here illegally would still be buying shit. So the underground economy, the people that are, that are making money that are not taxed. For example, drug dealers. Let's point them out, right? They don't exactly have a W-2. They don't have their income being taxed. They're not paying Medicare tax, Social Security tax. They're getting this money tax-free. But if you had a sales tax, they would then have to pay the sales tax. The other thing that it does is for the wealthy people, because people are under this impression that wealthy people don't pay tax. I think we talked about this before. The top 1% in this country pay all the tax. The top 1% pay 46% of all of the federal income tax in this country. If you go up to the top 10%, it's 76%. When you get to the top 50%, it's 97.7%. The bottom 50% only pay. The bottom 50% only pay 2.3% of all of the federal income tax. I think that instead of saying eat the rich and say that we need to tax the rich more, I think we need to get honest with ourselves and we need to say that we need to tax the poor more, because the poor are getting a free fucking ride. And I think we need to end that ride. And I know that that's a controversial statement. People say, oh, well, if they're poor, how can they pay tax? Well, if they're so fucking poor that they can't contribute, right? Right now, they're paying 2.3%. I think they need to get off their duff and go do something. They need to figure out a way to contribute. They're also the most likely to take advantage of services that we pay into, which we should absolutely be cutting into some of these services. Vespa, you are going to have to mute yourself. This is weird. The last thing I'll say is that for those that say that the rich don't pay a fair share, they're wrong now. But imagine if you had a sales tax for people like Bezos, because people will say, the whole thing about Warren Buffett will tell you, I pay less in taxes than my secretary. He's lying, first of all. But secondly, if the big spending rich guys, like Bezos likes to buy yachts and then he buys yachts for his yachts,
Like he's got one yacht that he likes to travel on, and then he's got another yacht with a helipad, right? If you want to tax those guys, all you have to do is institute this federal sales tax, and if he wants to buy 17 yachts, he's going to pay a 23% tax. I'll go ahead and yield now. I know there's a few people that want to jump in. Probably Daniel, probably Vespa, probably Lou, probably Double. Joe, you probably want to jump in. But let's take it one at a time. I would love for somebody to tell me where they think that I got any of that stuff wrong.
The rich don't pay a disproportionate amount of the income tax.
Sorry, I did a random.
Hold on. No, wait, you're gonna have to, So Vespa, let's pretend that 100 people go to dinner, okay? 100 people go to dinner. And of those 100 people, let's say the wealthiest person says, hey, I'm gonna pay 46% of the bill today. I would say that the other 99% of the people would say, man, that's pretty fucking generous. Now, if you were to break it down and say the top 10 wealthiest people, if they said, hey, we're going to pay 76% of the bill, the rest of you, the 90 of you, all you have to do is come up with 24%. But imagine the top 50 wealthiest paying 97.7% of that bill for dinner, and then telling the other 50% of the people, the other 50 people that are at this expensive dinner, hey, you guys, the 50 of you, you only have to chip in to pay 2.3%. So if you want to challenge me on my math, please go ahead. But don't tell me that the rich are not paying a disproportionate amount, because what you have to acknowledge is that the bottom 50% are paying virtually nothing.
Which is appropriate. That's the proportion it should be.
Excuse me?
On a progressive tax rate system, that's what you would expect.
Why would that be appropriate for the bottom 50% of the country to only pay 2.3% of all of the federal taxes? Please make it make sense.
The rich can afford it and the poor can't. Pretty simple. Pretty damn simple.
Well, hold on, guys. Let's talk about the tax code. Do you know what the tax rate is if you make $10,000 or less per year?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, this is nothing. They pay nothing. They're completely tax exempt. When you start factoring in the standard deduction, and you look at these rates, you should look at tax brackets before you have these conversations.
Well, we got to look at effective tax rates, right, across all taxes, not just income.
Oh, okay. So you want to talk about with
payroll, consumption, right?
I addressed the consumption thing. That I want to roll back all income tax, all Social Security tax, all Medicare tax, replace it with
capital gains.
Yeah, so you think capital gains tax is a fair tax?
I think we need a higher corporate rate tax.
Wow. Why would you want that? Why would you want to punish business?
My God. Why would you want unfettered corporatism?
No, I don't want that. See, this is what this is.
Monopolization.
No, so first, okay, so perfect. I'm glad that you brought all of these misunderstandings to the table, all in one. It's amazing that you brought all these misunderstandings to the table. I am not for corporatism. In fact, if I had it my way, we wouldn't have corporations at all. I think that this idea of corporatism that Benito Mussolini really loved and Trump supporters are jumping on board with, I think it's a very, very bad idea. And I think the government distinction of a corporation is a bad fucking idea. I don't think that we should have favor for corporations at all. I don't think we should have subsidies for them. I don't think we should bail them out when they fail. The idea of too big to fail, I think, is a joke. I don't think that we should do a wealth transfer from individuals to companies. I think that that's a very bad idea. And when government is in cahoots with corporations, that's a bad thing. Would you agree with that?
Say the last part again.
When government and corporations are in cahoots with each other, that is a bad thing for the people. Is that correct?
They aren't corporations, government entities to begin with.
They are government entities. Which I feel like you didn't listen to what I said.
Is this the first time you've ever had a conversation about economics?
Should businesses be regulated or not?
I would regulate them with the most minimal regulation possible.
So you want like black markets to run freely?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about this idea that you said about monopolies. Vesper, can you give me one example in the history of you didn't hear my question, you retard.
An example of a monopoly.
Yeah, I want to give you a question. You're gonna have to fucking listen to it. I know that this is a difficult thing. This is how you become a utilitarian Gnostic atheist. Basically what you wrote in your bio is, I'm a fucking retard, but I'm gonna act like I know things.
Go ahead and challenge that.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. What example can you give me in the history of the United States of a monopoly that's a company that did not get regulatory favor from the government, didn't get subsidies, and didn't get bailouts? If you can give me an example of one such company, I will suck your dick. Go ahead.
I mean, that's corporatism, right? That's the whole problem.
I'm the one that's against corporatism. Hold on. So let's find the common ground. So corporatism is bad. What I'm in favor of is a thing called capitalism, which has nothing to do with corporatism. Do you think that corporatism is capitalism or is a version of capitalism? Is that your contention?
You could say it's like crony capitalism.
Yeah, well, that's a word that lefties came up with to besmirch capitalism, when really what they're talking about is economic fascism, which is what we have in play. So it's right to criticize the system that we have. What's wrong is to identify that as capitalism.
I mean, like Trump is not leading an anti-capitalist movement.
He's absolutely leading an anti-capitalist movement.
Why does he combine pro-business with pro-capital measures like tax cuts and deregulation, with nationalist interventionist policies, with tariffs?
So if you're intervening, you are, by definition, not a capitalist.
Okay, this is a libertarian definition of
He's not
capitalism.
leading anything, he's just picking up where the last person left off. Which I disagree with a lot of shit he's doing, but like the idea that any intervention is not capitalism is like...
Well, Lou, explain to me what the definition of capitalism is.
Well, I'm gonna use your definition, and it would be something that just never exists. It doesn't exist, period. So like...
Hold on. Forget about my definition. What's your definition of capitalism?
I would go with something like, allowing free trade, as little intervention as possible.
How about the actual definition, which is the means of production is owned privately?
Okay.
So if the means of production is owned privately, why would we want government agencies to be in cahoots with these companies? Why would we want to do a wealth transfer of the public funds to these companies in the form of subsidies and in the form of bailouts? Why would we do that?
I'm not saying that we should want to do that. My standard
I don't think
monopolies are inherently bad.
Listen, if a monopoly could organically form, if somebody came to market with the best fucking mousetrap ever, and everybody said, why would I buy any other mousetrap? This is the best fucking mousetrap. Yeah, 100% of the mousetraps are going to be sold by Lou's Mousetrap Company. I would be perfectly okay with that. The problem is there's not a single fucking monopoly that's ever organically formed. Ever. Because organically formed companies in a free market have competition. And by definition, they would never experience a monopolization. The way that you get a monopoly is with protective policy. Protective policies like saying, hey, we're going to limit competition from other countries in the form of tariffs. We're going to limit competition in the form of protecting these U.S. companies. If you're protecting U.S. companies and you're putting penalties on foreign entities, now you can say that you want to advocate for doing that. You just can't advocate for doing that and then look me in the eye and say you're a capitalist. You just can't do it. It'd be a lie.
Well, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is why I do think like there needs to be I think I don't know if it was agents or something said earlier that you don't want to have there to be an ability to influence or I forget the word that someone used. It might have been you earlier. To be able to like basically influence a market. But look, I think to an extent you do need someone to be able to have that influence because someone will have that influence. If it's not home, it's going to be abroad.
Got it. So what you're saying is like, hey, look, man, if Trump wasn't there, the fucking socialists would put their hand on the scale.
No.
Okay, then say what mean what you say and say what you mean.
He's giving the Iranian argument.
No, I'm saying that like a government, like you have to have some.
This is sounding like a Randy McDickerson argument.
Yeah.
No. Look, it is something like, what do you do if you have no control over your currency? Which this would very much likely happen to all but like one country potentially. I shouldn't say that. I don't know economics well enough to say really anything confidently. But it's like the idea that you could just allow your money to just be freely. I mean, shit, if you sell something in the States and another country wants to just come in and just purely just undercut the fuck out of everyone just to kill them off with that intention only and then leave. Like this is, it's like, why? What's the point of that?
Well, let's think about that.
Why wouldn't they do that?
Let's think about that. Because do you believe that people are capable of operating in, with self-interest? Do you believe that's a concept?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say if China, who has cheap, crappy steel, for example, right? There are people that will opt for the cheap steel. That is true. But then what happens is they go and they build a bridge with cheap Chinese steel, and then it's not up to code, and then they have to go and buy U.S. steel anyways. Shout out to the Bay Bridge that was built about 15 years ago. This is part of the problem, is you need to let the market decide. You need to let the producers and you need to let the buyers decide. When you put your hand on the scale, what you're saying is that you don't believe in the market. There's a lot of people that don't believe in the market, right?
To self-regulate.
Do you have Tourette's? What the fuck was that? I was talking to Lou. Vesper, why don't you mute yourself? We don't have time for utilitarian atheist Gnostics. Lou.
Yeah.
You guys are all over the place. What a sloppy conversation. Can I just welcome Autumn to the stage? I haven't seen her in a long time. Autumn, you might remember me as Roger Mayhem, but I've got a new name, a new photograph. But welcome to the stage, Autumn.
Thank you. Hi, friends. I'm just a friendly person. Feel free to ask me about anything. I talk about topics, and also someone mentioned libertarian viewpoint. Although feel free to ask me about libertarian viewpoints because I'm actually an elected official within the party.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know Steve McKayle's driving.
I got elected, but I got elected in January. And I didn't plan to run for it.
Even Kieran Harless has had enough with these nitwits.
I have good feelings about Karen Hall. Well, features and friendly, but like I enjoy some of her stuff, but like a lot of stuff, I'm like, shut up, police woman. Sometimes I love her occasionally, but like.
Automate.
Huh?
You're gonna be a delegate to the convention in 2026.
I don't know. It's just like location-wise, it's usually an issue for me.
It's gonna be in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to travel across the country, so I probably won't be down unless I can find like a libertarian friend nearby that I can like pay for the gas or something. So.
And the excitement around the Grand Rapids convention, which John, hopefully you'll once. That would be fun. We should set up a booth there. That would be fun. It looks like Justin Amash might run for chair of the National Party. It's in his home state of.
We did that a couple times, but then
But it wasn't the right time. But the convention being there, and now that Michael Heiss has kind of ran back to the Republican Party, and the Mises Caucus has kind of fallen apart. I think now is the time for Justin Amash. I'm kind of post-partisan now. I no longer believe that the Libertarian Party is a force for good. I think that I think they're woefully unorganized. They don't know how to fundraise, and if they had money, they wouldn't know what to do with it. The last two things that they've done that made an impact in any way, the party itself, was getting Marshall Byrd elected in Wyoming, and then the 2021 efforts when we got 150 libertarians elected in the state of Pennsylvania. But now, pragmatism is like a bad word. It's the only party in the United States where if you say that you're a prag, they will shit on you and tell you that somehow that being pragmatic is a bad thing. So I have no love for the party, but the movement, I just don't think that the movement is through the party. I'm adamantly against the LP now.
I'm a libertarian people, and I am technically average. I'm elected into office technically, and I do my best to do what I can to make better, inside and out, but it's really looking at me sometimes. The treasure, cough.
Yeah.
I don't trust libertarians. I just want people who choose different methods of trying to make things better. We all try different methods. If you choose to be pragmatic or choose different methods, I'm not gonna say you're not a real libertarian, blah, 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 blah.
I think the problem is the tent is too big. If you're going to include lefty libertarians and righty libertarians into the same tent, they don't believe the same thing. One group of people believes that property is an absolute right. The other group of people believe that property is theft. These people cannot come together and form the same party. It's a fucking joke.
Totally disagree with that. Totally disagree with that.
Well, you can disagree, but as somebody that's done my fair share of organizing within the party, I can tell you that these people do not want the same things, and the things that they're committed to. Let me just ask you this, because you said you disagree, right? If I believe that property rights is absolute, and you believe that property is theft, who's going to adjudicate that?
Those end up being the two choices. Nobody's going to adjudicate that. I totally get that. And I get the experience you have, the real experience. I'm not denying that at all. As far as what's possible is concerned, that's a different story, because there are aspects of both the left and right of libertarianism that can find common ground despite that. That's the only part.
Give me an example.
In my experience, even though it might seem innocuous, but it is a building block, it starts with core values as to what those core values are. For example, I heard you say when Besser was asking, you said, I think it should be a bare minimum when it comes to market. Great. Let's define what that is. Because I agree with that, by the way. I'm like, minimum amount of rules necessary for anything, in my business too. But I want to know that those minimum I have are super fucking clear, easily measured, and defended to the hilt. Not fucked around with, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the rules are.
So you know what I want the government to do when it comes to the market?
Yeah.
I want them to enforce contracts.
Okay, that's good. Good start. That's safety. That's fairness. There's some reliance there. You don't have to pick up arms to handle something. You help the government be able to support that. That makes total sense to me. Anything else?
I think if two parties engage in an agreement, I think that that's all that's really necessary. Because arguments around public safety, for example, if you have a claim that your safety's been jeopardized, if there's a harm that's been done, again, you'd go into that same thing called a courtroom and you would adjudicate there. If you want to protect against harm, you use the courts. You don't use the legislative branch.
Yeah, and that would also go to some standard responsibility for sort of things within the community that you live in as an entity. Like you said, like you think corporation's a bad thing. Like I don't know, like without a corporation, mankind was not able to innovate as much since the invention of the corporation. So, I mean, like, what would you replace it with? Everybody's sole proprietor, or like what?
Wait. Why does a company have to incorporate?